Still alive. There you go. You hear that? That is Every Night by Jameson Flood is the man's name, and he sent that in. And I appreciate that music submission there. It's beautiful music there. You know, that sounds like somebody's getting, getting, molested by a stream or something, maybe in Montana. You know, that sounds like somebody's trying to, somebody's hitting on your mother at a bar while you're, 9 years old and you're just, waiting over by the cigarette machine, beating on it like it's a video game and trying to find something to do. A lot of mustaches. A lot of mustaches back behind that music. And that's Jameson Flood. That's what that is. And I appreciate that sound right there. Thank you guys for joining us on this past weekend. It is Monday, January 29 in the year 2018. And we are in the realm of the universe as far as we know. And they say, I was hearing somewhere the other day that we might be figments of our own imagination. We might be somebody else's plan. We might be somebody else's video game. And I'm like, damn, bruh. If that's the case, man, get that mushroom and let daddy sprout, If that's the case, then get that flashy flower. Because I'm ready to throw some fireballs, I'm ready to wing a couple of flaming pops at fucking locals. That's what I'm ready to do. I mean, sometimes we just, man, I wish I had fireballs. Wouldn't that be awesome? Somebody's talking or something and they won't shut it down and you've been listening. And you've been a patient listener. Probably for probably a minute and 10 seconds. And that's about my listen span where they need to give a break for somebody else to kind of pop in, that 70-second mark. And if they just keep running past over 2 minutes, I'll just wing a damn, just a flaming little fuck nugget right at them. Take one of their earlobes off. Show them who's boss. Show them who's boss in this talk and listen and fight, in this talk and listen association. Oh, sorry, man. I'm just a little frustrated. And sometimes you are. Sometimes you are just a little frustrated, and that's okay. What's going on? Welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being alive. I had a pretty wild weekend. I'll get into that first. I got a new bed. The old bed, not that good of luck. I had this bed probably for maybe 3 years. Not a lot of sex in it. Not a lot of good sex, that's for sure. Definitely a lot of awkward kind of laying there. Talking about why, the sex wasn't good or why, had that PTE, that part-time erection. Because my erection, boy, that thing will file for unemployment like a motherfucker. My erection like to get that disability check. So, this bed hadn't really seen it. And also this bed, it kind of looked like a, I don't want to say a lady's bed, bro, because that is gutter. For a man to be in a lady's bed, that's not, and he don't have a lady, and he's just laying in a woman's bed at night. that is just something that is wild. That's something that is that's for outdoors. That's for another realm. That's not what's supposed to be happening in my life. And I got this bed, but it was like one of those, it was like a wrought iron kind of, had that kind of cagey sort of, kind of a British. It looked kind of British, kind of like two really skinny people that were in Britain, like a man and a woman, or two men, that are married. This isn't a kind of a bed where like two men that just are getting together to do sex meet up. This isn't a bed like that. This is two men that have been married and have a couple of, armoires and maybe, a lot of fancy books in another room, a rug. It's something more like that. Or where two real thin women would meet up and be with each other, and be around each other like that. So, anyway, I got rid of that and I got me a more of a wooden bed. And this thing is a damn Noah's Ark. It could weigh 700 pounds. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it took the Egyptians to get it into the house. That's how heavy this thing was. So I got a new bed. And it was a pretty good, I think of this company called Blake Avenue, and I don't work with them blakeavenue.com. They got cool wooden beds. Because I started seeing this. Every bed I would look for, it's all the same bed. Or the same 5 or 6 beds. They're all sold by the same 3 or 4 companies, Overstock or Wayfair or fucking, Sleep Fucker or whatever. And I wanted something that was a little more unique, a genuine bed. Because I've slept in some unique spots before. I slept under a man's bed when I first moved out here to Los Angeles. And that was a non-sensual relationship. That was friendship only. And for $150 a month, I slept under his bed. And I had whooping cough, too, during that time. And I had to hold my cough in one time while he was making love to a woman. Or he may have actually just been masturbating, but also doing impressions of a woman at the same time. So I don't know what was going on, but one of those things was going on, and I had a whooping cough. If you don't know whooping cough, sometimes you feel like you have to cough. Sometimes a cough feels like it has to you, and that's whooping cough. Whooping cough is like that. It's that brother that shows up, or that rednecky dude that shows up and don't ask you any questions and just punches you in the fucking face. And that's whooping cough. And that thing beat me down, beat me up, and beat me up and down. And that's what happened to me. But I got a new bed. What else? I get up Saturday morning. I was going to do some volunteering at the Special Olympics, I met this girl, I met a plus-size model a while back, and, a plus-size model, that's a girl that likes to eat and look fancy. And I like that because I like to do those things sometimes. I like to eat and be a little bit fancy. And so she told me that you got to do, she said she had a family member, I think that was in the Special Olympics. I was like, I want to go and check it out. And she said that she volunteered all the time, so I checked it out. So I went down there Saturday morning. I get there, 8 a.m. Turns out the thing was on Friday. So I'm down there asking people, and I hadn't been down there before. This is at a high school down near Long Beach. About a 40-minute drive. I get there. I'm asking people, have you seen the Special Olympics? And people looking at me like I'm, should be a coach in it, or should be a damn, should be running the 4th leg of the relay because I'm running around this school and this track and everything looking for Special Olympians and asking people. And it turns out, finally, I go back and look at the documentation they'd sent me, and the thing was on Friday. The thing was on Friday. And how about this? Who does a Special Olympics on Friday? Huh? Special Olympics is a weekend event. You don't put a Special Olympics on a Friday? So these young warriors and battlers and javeliners, who are have some afflictions, some of God's favorites, and they got to be out there in traffic on a Friday and mucking around, and people can't go watch them. So now I'm sitting down in Long Beach at 8:30. I'm furious. I'm furious because, I wanted to go. I was excited. I had a late night the night before at work. I got up early. I got in the car. I got down there. And, I was bummed that I'd missed it because I wanted to be there. I wanted to do it. I was working registration. It was going to be fun. It was going to be something I'd never been to before because I'd never even been to a regular Olympics. I met Peekaboo Street one time in Utah. And honestly, bro, she seemed down to, Peekaboo Street. Seemed like she wouldn't have mind if I'd have done a couple of U-turns in the cul-de-sac. But, and I remember one time they had this skeleton course out there at the Olympic. I was in Utah. I didn't go to the Olympics, but I got to go to the training facility. And they had the skeleton, and that's where you lay face first on this little bitty, it's almost like just a window, like somebody took a window out of a building and set it on the ground on an ice track, and you just go as fast as you can. And your face is just 3 inches from the ice. Man, that shit was hardy. That shit was scary. But anyhow, so now I'm furious. I guess I'm angry that my time is, I feel like I've wasted my time, even though it's not even, the time wasn't even about me. It was about being there for, the program and what was going on. And next thing you know, I had to go park by the water. I had to go park by the water in my car and just take some deep breaths. Because I was angry. Because I was also angry why you do Special Olympics on a Friday. Because you don't know what Friday is like in Los Angeles. Friday in Los Angeles, and that's Jameson Flood right there, who sent in his music. And he just emailed me back and said it is not copywritten. And so we can use that. So thank you there. We'll put a link to his SoundCloud in the YouTube. And that was this song earlier, which sounds like like somebody's, taking off your stepmother's shirt and is basically just spinning a disco ball around between her tits and blowing cigarette smoke around her neck and maybe up around her thighs and stuff. Here you go. And that's what that is right there. So, all right, I'm sorry. My audio was low. I didn't even realize that, guys. And now I'm coming in. Now I'm flexing a little bit. I had the wrong audio. Man, I just feel like, you ever had those times? Nothing's going your way. Nothing's going your way. I wish somebody would pull up with a damn van full of your way and just fucking dump that shit all over my body. Because sometimes I want things to go my way. So yeah, that's where I was. I was out there. So now I'm parked by the water because I'm pissed. I'm pissed for one, that I'm up, that I'm down there, that it's not going on, that I missed it. I'm pissed that I didn't read the documentation properly. And then I'm also angry that they do Special Olympics on a Friday. And I'm not even in them. Here I am angry about something that has nothing to even do with me. So that was pretty much kind of the highlight of my weekend. I hit a couple of men's meetings, a couple of, of the sobriety kind, and did a little bit of that. What else? I try to watch a little bit of that bee movie. It's about bees with Jerry Seinfeld. And I actually met a beekeeper one time off of Casual Encounters, and this is back when Casual Encounters was pretty popular. And that was a place where people that didn't know each other could meet up with each other blindly for sex or just for a friendship or even to fucking see some beehives. And I was out in, where was I? I don't know, somewhere, maybe, Missouri. And this gal, and I got invited I met this gal off Casual Encounters. Because I used to be out in that's the dark arts. When you're out there in the depths of the web, meeting up with strangers just to, to have some sort of a connection. And I wouldn't know, it wasn't always you were trying to meet up for some type of a sensuality. Sometimes you're just meeting up to see somebody, because you're out in these cities, sometimes you're by yourself. And so I met up with this lady, and she was a dang beekeeper, and she drove a truck. She drove a man's truck. And so, it made me a little nervous when a woman drives a man's truck, because you know what sometimes comes along with a man's truck? A man. So I didn't want to get involved with that. But she took me out to the beekeeping range where she kept bees and I got to put on the suit and do a little bit of that, that smoke work, blowing that smoke, blowing that smoke all around and getting those bees chill, calming them bees down. Because bees are just like us. They obviously want the legalization of marijuana. No, bees want to, if that smoke hits them, they chill out. It's like basically what you do for bees is you create a little hookah lounge, and then they're so chill and calm, you steal all their honey. You steal all of that fucking butt sweet that they make. Because that's what they do, dude. They spinning honey right out of their butt. And that is damn remarkable. Imagine that. Imagine if we could do that. You find a baby who's got a full diaper, and then you just damn sweeten a cake batter with it. That would be God's plan right there. What are we even talking about? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. What else happened this weekend? Yeah, I guess I don't know. Just been thinking a lot about my own ego and trying to do anything I could think of that would help keep my ego down. Having an ego is scary. Having this thing inside of you that just wants for yourself. That's scary. It's, at a certain point in our lives and as human beings, I'm sure our ego probably, we needed it more when we had to survive more. Now it's like you have to really mess up. You have to get to some low levels to not survive, especially in America. Other countries, they'll leave you out there on the road. You'll turn in India, you'll be a fucking speed bump in a week and a half, dude. People will be driving over you and no excuses. That's it. It's over. Your life will end like that. Some of these other countries. But in America, you can keep going. You can keep cruising in the US of A. And they'll keep giving you programs and assistance, and in welfare and double welfare and triple welfare and no whammies. Welfare vacation. They'll just keep giving it. In some places, people need it, and sometimes people don't. But we'll get, I don't know, man. I don't know. What else? I was thinking about, this weekend, I was thinking about when I was young, they had, I'm pretty gullible. And when I was young, they had a time where I didn't talk to my mother for probably about a year and a half. And they had a man called my school and ended up sending me an email. And this is when they had email. And a man sent me an email, and it turned out to be my great uncle. And I don't even know how many my father was 70 years old when I was born. A lot of you guys know that. And so my dad was born in 1910. So the great uncle, I'm keyed up. I'm intrigued to see what's going on, and who knows how, he wasn't like 100 and something years old, but he was an older man. So I met up with him. He was nice. And then my girlfriend, I had a girlfriend at the time. So we'd go over there and spend some time with him, hang out, have some snacks or something, or maybe listen to some music, some adult music. And then he one time started getting us a little bit cooked up on buying us some marijuana and liquor, apple cider liquor, and we'd have a good little time hanging out. And then one time I got real high, and he Melt, what they called him, Uncle Melt, like, something that was frozen one time and now it's not, like that, Melt. And he tried to hook up with my girlfriend. And at first I thought, oh man, I'm just high, dude. I'm so fucking high that I think that my uncle or great uncle's trying to bang my chick. And I don't even know if we were banging. So, that's pretty ballsy of him. It's nice of him to assume that I'm getting sex. But it's also kind of fucked up of him, if I'm not, to think I'm going to let him bang my girlfriend first before I get to bang her. I'm young. I'm working towards those sexual goals, as a child. And so anyway, I thought, I was like, damn, I'm so fucking high, dude. I think this old dude's trying to fuck my girlfriend. And I'm like, this some killer weed. Because I've been around. I was high on some weed one time where I couldn't bend my legs one time. And it wouldn't have been bad, but I was standing up when I started smoking. If I'd have been sitting down, no issue, you know. But when I'm standing up already and then I can't bend my legs, that's, you know, it was just hell, dude. I'd have a friend of mine pick me up and lay me down. And I've been high, you know, where you don't know what's going on, right? But I hadn't been high where I'm like, holy shit, dude, this old dude's trying to bang my lady. And that's some killer shit. But turns out anyway, fast forward, my mom and I kind of reconciled, and I didn't go back over there much after that. And then my mom and I are talking one time, and you know, I'm just telling her, we're talking about family and stuff, and I'm telling her about Uncle Melt, and she's like, who? And I'm like, Uncle Melt, you know, Melton, I guess. I assumed it was, you know, short for Melton. If that's even a name now, I don't even know. It doesn't sound like a name now that I'm saying it. Melton. Have I met anybody named Melton? I don't know. But she's like, you don't. She's like, what Uncle Melt? And I'm describing her. She's like, you don't even have an Uncle Melt. You don't have an Uncle Melton. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. And that was it, man. So some dude I don't even know found me somehow through the school system, hung out with me and my girlfriend, got us fucked up, tried to bang my girlfriend. Like a senior citizen, dude, that I don't even know. So, you want to talk about the Special Olympics? We've all been out there in some damn Special Olympics. You know, we've all had some hurdles and some, you know, some things, some shot put, something we've had to get off our chest. You know, we've all done some, you know, I remember the first time I ever did cocaine, man, I was running. Somebody told me it was a performance enhancing drug. So next thing you know, I'm out there on a couple of grams of that white, you know, of that fluffaduffalus, bruh, of that, ooh, you know. And next thing you know, I ran 7 miles, dude, in a pair of orange Umbros out there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, near the railroad tracks. High on cocaine, dude, I'd stop every mile and cup up on that dust and keep cruising. And that's where I was at, you know. So we've all been through some Olympics. You know, we've all been through, and I'm not knocking the Special Olympics, man, because here's the thing, I'll tell you this. If I had a heavy affliction, you know, if I had a syndrome or something that was real strong like that, I don't know that I would be brave enough to then compete. I mean, I'm afraid to compete if my hair's a little off. You know, I get nervous and self-conscious. If my DNA's a little bit wrangled, who even knows? You know? If I got split ends on my TGAC cells or whatever, you know, who knows? Who knows if I'd be out there competing like a lot of these brave women and men and children. Hold on, this cord just came out. I got to put it back in. All right. What else, man? I know this, that Gray Block Pizza is our charter sponsor. And if you're in Los Angeles, you go over to 1811 Pico Boulevard, stop in and get that. They got all that magic, boy. They got them Bella Goat. They got that picante pollo. They got the deep cheese. How deep? So deep. So go over there, Gray Block Pizza. The link will be in the comments, and we're grateful to them as well, man. I'm letting you guys know I'll be at Harvey's in Portland next weekend, Portland, Oregon, February 8th through 11th. February 16th through 18th, I'll be in La Jolla at the Comedy Store. 22nd through the 24th, February in Indio, California, Fantasy Springs Casino. March 15th and 16th, Tacoma Comedy Club. March 17th, Spokane Comedy Club. And April 6th and 7th, Tampa, Florida at Rock Brothers Brewing. And everything is available. Those are all available on the website, theovon.com/tour, TOUR. Dude, I get this email. You know what? You want to know some kind of shit I'm tired of, man? I get this email the other day. It says, sign a petition for people to stop taking selfies with tigers. And this is in India, I'm thinking, you know, because that's tiger country, Bali, you know, Malaysia, somewhere where there's a jungle. Because you ain't just going to find a tiger, you know, you don't find a tiger out there, you know, on a basketball court. You find a tiger on a jungle. And And this in this email is like, you got to sign this petition. We already have like 150,000. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is this shit? These are tigers, dude. Okay, and this is, it might be a little bit of a messy exchange over there, whatever second or third or maybe fourth world country this is, where some brave person is next to a tiger and trying to get the tiger to take a selfie with a tourist. But that's a huge business probably there for them. And we don't have to have that business here because we're pretty fortunate. But that dude or that lady has to have that business. You don't know how many people are eating because that tiger is out there doing work. You know, it's like a stripper in America. And I'll tell you, you want to know when that tiger's ready to stop taking selfies, that tiger will let you know. People out here signing a fucking petition. What are you doing? You want to go save a tiger? Go to your local strip club and pull one of them pretty kittens off stage. Because that's the same exact thing. And you can say, well, it's not, well, it's this, well, it's that. It's not. That's the same thing. Somebody using something to make money out there. And you think you're taking advantage, drive over to the strip club. Let the bouncer, let Big Henry, you know, who's probably a big African American man or a big a white guy with a neck tattoo. Let Big Henry, let Big Henry see how he feels about letting you take that tiger off stage, about getting that pretty poisse down off the stage. Man, I don't even know, dude. It's just one of those. Is it one of those weeks? I don't even know. But how is that an issue? Who's laying it? That's your issue? Then go over there. Wrestle it out. Go free that tiger, dude. You seen that movie where that boy ends up in a boat with the tiger? Go take your chances. Go take your chances with that cat. Because that cat, dude, a tiger will lick your skull open. A tiger could, I bet, open your skull just with the friction of his tongue against your bone. So you're out here being like a dang jackass. Speaking of a jackass, man, I'll tell you this little news story. The great donkey escape. A lone donkey was found leading a herd of goats and sheep through residential streets of West Covina, California, after escaping from a property in a neighboring city on Thursday. Officers responded to the area of Francisquito and Valinda around 12:30 a.m. after receiving a call of a group of animals roaming a neighborhood, according to a post on the West Covina Police Department's Facebook page. Police discovered the donkey, goats, and sheep slipped through an unsecured gate from a property. Is this the script to Madagascar? I feel like I just read the script to Madagascar. But I would guess, honestly, let's think about this, that donkey was probably down there doing some of those sex shows. And everybody thinks about the lady, you know. But you want to go rescue something instead of people signing up to take a, you know, go down to Mexico. Just look in the donkey's eyes and see if they are okay with making love to these women. You'll know. The animal will give you a look. But obviously they're not. If this one's heading north, you know, this donkey probably running out of there. They should have checked, see if he had a couple condoms in his pocket, you know. Maybe it was that donkey. But things are going haywire right now, I guess. This episode's haywire. I don't even know what this episode's about. But I don't know what anything's about. Oh, man. Man, I've just been feeling, for some reason, I've just been feeling testy. I've been feeling testy. And I don't know why. You know, I don't know why. I've been trying to stay calm and stay chill. I got that new bed. That's a place I can rest. You know, I guess I'm just nervous. I guess I'm just nervous about, you know, some stuff going on. I tried out for the Tonight Show. I sent in a tape and I didn't get it. So that kind of, you know, it just made me feel, I guess, I don't know if it made me feel like I'm not good enough as a comedian. It just made me feel, You know what it made me feel? It made me feel that somebody should start a Hollywood that creates entertainment and not one that is just in the business of Hollywood's just gotten so political, I feel like, you know, and not one that's just in the business of entertaining advertisers. You know, and a lot of people will say, well, look, you're not going to have the business if you don't have the advertisers. True. But I think that there's a great opportunity out there right now for somebody to make good entertainment, to bring it along, and people will get on board. Because some of the shit that's out there now, man, there's some good stuff, but damn, dude. I don't know if I've ever seen as many bad movies as I saw recently. Everyone, it just, come on. Oh, so anyway, I guess, yeah, it just made me feel, you know, it just made me mad. Because I know the people that do get on there, and I'm not no discredit to them, but I know that I'm as good as some of those comedians. And it's just hard. They don't, it seems like you have a southern accent or you're from a certain place, and a lot of these Hollywood channels don't want to embrace you or give you an opportunity because you don't, just the sound of your voice makes them think that you are not part of their world or not good enough to be in their world, or just your accent, or even and Hollywood pisses me off, man. You know, Hollywood's all about like, diversity and this and that now. 2 years ago, black people had to beg and boycott Hollywood to even get awards. Do you remember that? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. You know what I'm going to do right now then? If I'm not feeling good, I'm going to quit thinking about myself, and I'm going to start let's check into some of these calls. You guys had some calls that came in, and I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys putting up with me today on this episode. It's just kind of, I guess just got a lot on the brain. You know, as always, if you have an issue, you can hit the hotline, 985-664-9503, and talk to us. Leave us a voicemail if you're struggling with something, and you believe that myself or someone else can offer some basic life suggestions, then we'd love to hear what's going on. Again, that number is 985-664-9503. All right, let's listen to this call came in. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. You brought up the government shutdown. It was real quick. You sort of said, good, you're happy that the government shut down. And
he's saying on last week's episode, I brought up the government shutdown. Yes, I did. Yep, and I said it was good. I was glad the government shut down. Now, if we could just get the news media to shut down, we might be able to get a little bit of peace. I was kind of joking. Onward.
You'll be fine. You got a job. There's nothing really wrong with that, I guess. It's just that I think you just didn't know sort of a big point about it. The reality is that the people that shut it down, the senators, the House, those people, they still get paid. They're still working that whole time. Their pay is actually permanently authorized by the U.S. Constitution, so it never stops.
Wow, I didn't know that. So government shutdown, the big dogs still get that feed. They still get that kibble and Benjamins. Onward.
What the people it does affect, those are people like me. It does stop for people like us, and we do stop getting paid. Like a little about me and how it affected me was I got a lot of bills, and basically out of nowhere I get put on what's called furlough. And I'm basically told, hey, you're not getting a paycheck. You're not working. You're going to have a job when it's over, but who knows when that's going to be. In 2013 it was like 3 weeks, I think, two weeks. For the DOD it was a little less because the work I do is considered mission critical.
Okay, wow. So you're saying that as more of an boots on the ground employee that you don't get paid. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when government shut down, like what really occurs. I didn't think that a lot of people don't get paid. And I bet there was probably a moment for you when you're not getting paid where you're starting to, I bet it really, that's when you start feeling, I bet, like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on in my country? Who's making these choices? I bet it's, like, not judging you. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. And I think that's bullshit. You know, I don't think that people that serve in our military or who are teachers, I don't think those people get paid enough at all. And I'm not grouping those together because, you know, teachers can't throw grenades, but I'm just saying, I've always thought that. But I bet there was a moment where once you realize that you're not getting paid, I bet that makes you perk up. You know, it makes you perk up when somebody cuts those lifelines off. You know, we know what we need to survive. That money when we need to take care of ourselves, to pay our bills, like you're talking about, makes you perk up. It makes you see, well, who's doing what, who's not helping, who's not passing the laws or signing the bills, or you know. And it seems these days that a lot of it is ego with these political parties. That they're at the point where it's just ego. You know, one of them doesn't want to help just because they don't want to. They personally don't want to seem helpful. And I think it's long been that way, but now it's just getting more and more evident. But I bet that you know what, and I'm not trying to find a silver lining in this for you, but I bet that that's when you get alive, that you get awakened to the fact that what the fuck's really going on here. Because it's not until we're affected really that we spruce up. You know, it's not until we're affected that we, you know, it makes you see what's going on. You know, that's when you get alert. And so we probably all need that. We probably all need a couple days where somebody cut, you know, where our supply is cut and we got to look around. Because we get comfortable on the tit in America. And that's even just the tit if we're just working or what we're doing. You know, no matter what we're doing, we get comfortable on the tit. But I didn't know that. And I didn't know that our congressmen and our senators still get paid. But I thank you for your service, man. You're braver than I am. That's for sure. I've always thought that you guys should get, your vote should count for a vote and a quarter or a vote and a half. If you served in our country. I think you put more on the line. Onward. Let's get into some calls here. We had a call here. All right. In last episode, we had a young man call in, Jose Ochoa, who was calling asking about, you know, advice and questions as to if he wanted to drop out of college against one of his parents' wishes, his stepfather, I believe, or his father. And he wanted some suggestions from us on that. And I gave him a couple of ideas, and you guys also hit the hotline with some. So, Jose, here are a few for you, and just a few thoughts in general on that. He was worried about disappointing his father, who is first generation here in New America. You know, and just a lot of what goes on with that, and what his life would look like. He wanted to start his own business, and here were some calls. Onward.
What's up, Theo? This is Jose in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay, and this is not the same Jose. This is a different Jose. And I could easily make a no way Jose joke here, but I'm not gonna. But I just sort of inversely did right there. But this is not the same Jose who called in with the problem. Onward.
And this is for Jose Ochoa from Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Jose, for calling in about Jose. Jose on first. Nope. Okay, more.
So I got a little story to tell. Man, I gotta say, college wasn't for me, man. I was honestly tired of school, sitting down at a damn desk. But I still took a crack at college. I went for a full semester back in 2016. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning, being around like-minded people, talking to the fine-ass girls. But I realized I was going to spend a lot of time, money, and effort there, and honestly, I just wasn't up for it at the time back in 2016. So I said, fuck it, and I didn't go back. A few months later, I did the unimaginable, and I enrolled myself in massage therapy school to be a licensed massage therapist.
Okay, so he was in college. He didn't like it that much. He liked the fine-ass girls, which, yeah, I feel you, bro. You know, there's something about college where women go there because they want to learn. And that's how that's how you get a woman with some facts. You got to lay some facts out in the street. And when they show up, you get out there and drop that bailar most on them. But here we go right here. So, but now he's in massage therapy. So you got in massage therapy, still catching with them ladies. Beautiful. Onward.
I kept in mind that this is going to be back up anything goes shit in my life. And it's honestly, it's a well-paying job. Point is, if you haven't done shit you like, bro, don't worry about it. I say finish your degree for a backup if anything goes to shit. You know, a good degree. And with time and life experience, you'll find your likes, dislikes, and talents. Yeah, by risking it, being able to not be lazy.
And there you go, right there. He's saying right there, take your time. He's saying get the degree, take your time, because you always have it as a backup. You know, you can try something different. Take your time. You have time. You're going to slowly figure out your likes, dislikes, and talents. Just don't be lazy. I like that. Let's hear another one came in for you, Jose. Here we go.
Call for Mr. Ochoa, the 21 and a half. Okay, man, just get her done, finish college. I dropped out when I was 19, and I've regretted it for the past 9 years. And you just got to get in there and get her done, man. Otherwise, you're going to end up finding some other things to do with your time. You could hit the bottle or get into drugs, but just focus on a goal and just get her done. All right, good luck to you, Ochoa. Hope all is well.
Boom, there you go. And that's some sound advice right there. If you're, because there is one thing, man. If I go back in time, if somebody showed up right now and they had a big, an empty sack, an empty burlap sack, and I said, hey, mister, what's in that sack there? And they said, they said, this is a porthole back to time. That's the only time probably that I would crawl up in a man's sack right there. So there you go. Finishing it up, there's something to be said for it. Getting it done, because you have idle time. That's the devil's diving board, Daddy. And the devil will jump right off of anything and land in the back of your fucking ball bag. So there you go, right there. Let's take one more that came in. Here we go.
Yeah, Theo. Yeah, this is Justin. I'm calling from California.
Thanks for calling, Justin. Onward.
And I'm just responding to that Ochoa fellow about his decision about going to college or not. And I just want to say, I'm going through the same struggle right now. I'm trying to finish up. I'm almost done. Man, it's tough, because, these classes and stuff, there's a lot of bureaucracy and shit. You got to take these stupid classes you don't want to take. But, man, it's not really about the classes at the end of the day. It's just about meeting people, hanging out with people. I meet so many people, man. I never want to hang out with the same, people. Always hang out with different people. Expose myself, man. Because you never know who you meet. The connections are real. People you meet are real. Good luck to you. But, man, you may be missing an opportunity of a lifetime, man.
And, and that's a good point. Because you ask anybody if they could go back to college, who went to college, most people would say yes. Most people are going to say yes. I mean, college is a fun time. You don't get that freedom. You don't get to be that free as you do in college. And I think that is something special that's, about being in like a 4-year university and getting that experience of going and living on campus. You just don't get it again. You don't even get that time in your life because as you creep up in age, people just there's more of expectations on you from society, and you might start to feel that, Mr. Ochoa. But that's there's some great outlooks right there. Go ahead, get it done while you're there. If you already started, finish it up. I dropped out and regretted it. It's not even about the college; it's about the connections. If you have a business plan idea now, you might meet somebody in college. Who's got the other side of it? Who's got the other side of your business plan? Because if there's anything that's tough to do is everything by yourself. Teamwork makes the dream work always. You want to meet up with people who are like-minded and like to get things done, because you can't do it all. You need somebody to help with everything. This podcast, I need people to help with Patreon to support. We got we have our new camera being started up this on Thursday's episode coming up this week. We got new lights. We're gonna be able to have a guest in soon. I need an editor. I got an editor that's gonna come tonight and take off with this footage, and we'll be up to midnight on the phone or on Skype discussing it. But he has to have that skill set. I can't do it all. It's like there's a lot of teamwork. And you're going to need that, man, in a business idea a lot of times. Maybe you won't. But yeah, college is about the connections, the opportunity. And also, dude, you get that. I mean, they got a straight up buffet of breasts or wiener out there if you want it. I mean, college is that time to cut up. I mean, out here in the real world, you can't do anything anymore. So if you're going to catch some extra, if you're going to, get into some straight up Special Olympics, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to just be skeeting over somebody's, over that titty bar, if you're just going to be, you're going to be triple jumping some cock on up and down some lady's, leg or something, then you're going to want to do something. You're going to want to be in that college. Because you can't just recreate college somewhere. You can't walk into like a CVS or a Walgreens and just, say, let's turn the fuck up and start drinking and, doing shots out of people's asses. You can't do all that. You're going to need a real environment, and college, provides that. Last week we asked on the episode, I asked if any Boston fans get tired of winning. The Patriots are going to be in this final again, and it's, I think everything loses its allure, and even victory probably does. And this young lady called in with some thoughts on that. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. My name is Jen. You were saying on this past podcast, you were saying that people are getting tired of Boston winning. And you said you heard a Patriots fan say that they are tired of seeing the Patriots win. Do we feel greedy? Yeah, it sometimes feels like that, I guess you could say.
Okay. Thank you for calling, Jen. Onward.
Okay. It doesn't, I bet it wouldn't feel as good if, say, if you saw the Saints win. I'm 26, and the first time I saw Tom Brady win a Super Bowl, I was 11 years old or something like that. We were going through some tough times, like, as a family.
Mm-hmm. And Tom Brady's that man. And he is 6'6". That's tall. I mean, that is tall. That's like 2 8-year-olds. Long ways. Onward.
And we're all living in this Super 8 motel, in this crappy Brockton motel, some ghetto, for like 2 months. When we saw them win that 2002 Super Bowl, I saw my dad cry his eyes out. And like at that moment, I realized like how important this was for him at this point in our lives, how important it was for football to bring us all together. It did. It held our family together for such tough times.
And I respect that, and I appreciate that call, Jen. That is a beautiful moment. I mean, there's nothing, there's also nothing more Boston fan than, a dad crying in a Super 8 motel with his children as Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl. That's like the most, that's so real Boston, not fancy Boston. I mean, that's fucking unbelievable. Leaving the room to get, hit the ice machine by himself to have a few moments and come back in and celebrate, crack open a thing of grape, maybe grape soda or something for the kids or do something special, and yeah, I mean, that's Jesus Christ. A Super 8 too, man. I don't even think they went out. They were not doing well. The last I checked, they were down to like a Super 6 and people were getting murdered at some of them. But I appreciate the call, and there is something, there is something beautiful about. There's something beautiful about that. There's something beautiful about fanhood and how it carries generations. I mean, one thing I remember about my own father was watching Saints games, and he got me into them. And sometimes you're a fan because someone else in your family was. It gives you a bridge there. It gives you some sort of a connection. Especially with fathers and sons. A lot of times there's not a ton, since men don't really relate to each other very emotionally. There's not a lot of opportunities for that emotional webbing between men and their sons. So the fact that they can share a sports team together is huge, and it really does. There was nothing more that my grandfather wanted to see than the Cubs win. And he used to blow cigarette smoke in my face and cheat at cards when we were children. He'd take a big hit off that Marlboro Red, or, he'd be back there just blowing them Winstons, and he'd hit me with a big, and when I couldn't see or my eyes were burning, he would cheat at cards. But he loved the Chicago Cubs, and for most of my life, I've loved them. And when they won, I cried. I cried because I didn't really cry. I cried some for me, but really I cried for him probably. It just welled up in me that a lot of his life, this had been something he loved. And that's one thing that's kind of beautiful about humanity is sometimes, sometimes we carry out the dreams or the moments of those who went before us. And I guess that's kind of a neat thing that's kind of a neat rivet in who we are. It's like that's kind of an escape from our ego when we have moments like that. When something special happens and it's, we're there, we're happy there to see it, but really, I'm the eyes of my grandfather at that point, or there's a little bit of him in my heart where I see, I'm emoting, feeling emotion because he would be if he could be alive. And there's a moment where there is for you as a child in that Super 8, where you see your father have feelings. And sports will do that. I guess it's a unique, I don't want to say it's a conduit for our feelings, but it's a unique quilt, that we find our space in, and that connects a lot of people. And I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. Jesus Christ, bro. I don't know if I'm retarded or not. Man, my brain is just shitting the bed today. It's just shitting the bed. But sports does that sometimes. It's the catalyst for behavior. It's a catalyst for connectivity. It's a catalyst for, it gives us a chance to compete against someone else, or even to cheer our favorite competitors on. It's that, it's such a conduit for a lot of our emotions. It really, really is. But I appreciate that call, Jen. I appreciate that call. What else is going on? Oh, I got this call that came into me, and this was a question directed at me, and I'm going to get to this one. I know I'm just kind of jumping through calls here, guys. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just feeling weird today or what? I don't know. It's Sunday. I don't know. I don't feel that. I don't know. I mean, I feel like physically fine. I'm just not, just feeling whatever. So let's keep this going. Here we go.
What's going on, Theo? This is Andre calling from Boston. We had a question to ask you.
And this is Andre out of Boston hitting that hotline. Here we go, Dre.
I noticed on your last podcast you said you had a Latin fella doing your technical work or whatever.
Yeah, and that's Chris Perez out there. And we got a Latino gentleman here doing that. And he's a unique specimen. He's pretty shy, but we might have him on soon. Let's see. Onward.
Do you consider yourself a Latin fella considering you're half Nicaraguan? Because, I was born in America, and I'm Cuban and Chilean. My mother's from Chile, my dad's from Cuba.
Damn, you that Chilean Cuban, huh? Whoo, boy. Damn, you sound like a fancy order of fish at one of those nice restaurants, man. That Chilean Cuban, dude. Man, it sounds like if I owned you, I'd have you in a tank, And that reminds me, actually, my sister and her husband have a bass in a tank at their house, right? And it can't even turn around. It's just in there, moving a little bit, because it's gotten so big it can't barely, turn around in the tank, but it is in the tank. Onward, Andre, onward.
Say your father's from Nicaragua, so do you consider yourself Latin American? Because, you kind of come up with some stereotypical shit sometimes, and that shit's kind of ridiculous, bro. I don't know. Not that it matters, but I'm just curious.
Gang, bro. Bailar. You know what I'm saying? Do I consider myself Latin American? I'll tell you this, man. I'm tell you this. My father was straight up about that Nicaragua. And where my Nicars at? Where my real Nicars? And he lived there till he was 14, and he came over to New Orleans, or to America, United States of America. And he used to talk a lot in Spanish, man. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about because I was a child, you know. And he was 70 when I was born. So by the time we got to really talking, he's about 80. You know, so he coming in kind of with that 80-year-old perspective, you know, slanging that Espanol around the house. And I didn't really get to feel him that much, you know, and feel that vibe of him. You know, he took me one time to, I think, Puerto Vallarta. One time he took me there to do something. And he might have been involved in some shady activity, actually, because he used to go back and forth between Central America and America, Estados Unidos. And I think he might have been involved in a little bit of shady shit. And I don't know what an 80-year-old man can get involved in that's shady. You know, probably not drug muling or anything like that. Maybe running a little bit of small bags of coke or something. I don't know. But he was caught up in a little bit of the dark arts right there. And I knew even as a child that something was, you know, a little bit wild going on. But did I feel it? No, because I didn't feel much from my father. You know, I remember him. He told me, obviously, he told me that I was a survivor. He told me that I had the heart of a lesbian. He always told me that since I was young, because I had that vibrant heart, you know, and I got hit by that Trans Am and survived it. And he told me, he told me that I'd be okay. You know, I think he kind of started to kind of prepare me for the fact that he wasn't going to be around forever. He got me into doing stand-up comedy, really. When I think about it, my father used to be that guy. He used to go to, you know, he was involved in some crazy shit, and he bought a Cutlass 88 off a couple of brothers, and it had speakers in the back. But he didn't mind the speakers because he was hard of hearing. So he'd be rolling through the town and through our neighborhood and stuff, you know, with a couple of 12s in the back. Just, you know, just killing them, bro, with some, whatever they were, 16s, I don't know what they were. But he couldn't hear it, but he had that bass. So he'd be listening to like NPR or all these political talk shows, Rush Limbaugh or something, and just Paul Harvey. You know, he had that. And one of the speakers I remember was blown out and some Chinese food got stuck in it. And he used to rattle, bro. It sounded like a huge fucking rattlesnake in the back of that trunk. And my dad had that, you know, and he had, and he was still trying to make some money because him and my mother were always fighting. He had to make some money to survive. But did I feel, you know, I remember kids in our neighborhood would call me a spick all the time. Because, you know, my brother and I and my sisters had, you know, kind of a little bit of tan skin. And for our neighborhood, for our town, we had very tan skin. You know, it was very, I mean, you almost, after us was just black. You know, there wasn't a lot of middle grade going on. So, and you didn't have a lot of mixed people back then. You didn't have a lot of mulatto people. You didn't have a lot of black, white people. And some people get upset at these kind of terms. Whatever, man. You know what I'm talking about. We didn't have a lot of people that were mixed. It wasn't as popular then. You know, you didn't have people with a black and a white parent or a black and a, you know, and we only had a couple of ethnicities, you know. So, you know, I didn't feel it. You know, my father would tell me stories a lot about growing up, you know, and he talked about they didn't have a lot of money growing up. He talked about the poverty that was in the country. You know, his family was down there. They worked in a church and they were building a church. And it might still be there. I'm not sure. I plan to go back sometimes. But I think what it did do, it inspired me to do a couple of things. You know, it's inspired me to try and learn Spanish. It's inspired me I'd like to do a special in Spanish one day to be able to perform, you know, for people that catch that Latino vibe, you know, for anybody that's ever been Latino or anybody that's ever, you know, been kidnapped and, you know, in, you know, Bolivia or somewhere, or, you know, one of those drug countries or something like that, or any, you know, a little bit of homage. So it makes me think like that. But, you know, I guess I've always felt maybe just a little bit obscure, a little bit different. I know that when I speak Spanish that it really comes out of me naturally. You know, it comes out of me like it's supposed to be in me. You know, it's like when you open up a tube of toothpaste and you see toothpaste in the tube and it makes sense to you. That's how I feel about that Latin culture, that vibe, you know. But I remember my father doing some shady shit, man, when I was young. He'd be cooking fucking bananas in the front yard and shit like that. You know, and some of it, you don't know how much of it was Latino and how much of it was just the fact that he was in his 80s and he was starting to lose his mind and he had a griddle. So it's a lot of mixed stuff going on. But he, he wrote for some newspapers down there, and I guess so. It's in my blood. I feel like it's in my nature, and it's in my nurture. I think it's in both of those things. So that's what's up, man. Yeah, I mean, I guess I do stay a little bit on the surface, maybe about some stereotypical stuff, but I would do some stuff for, for another country, man. I'd do something for my fellow Nicaraguans. I don't think I'd drug mule or anything. Honestly, I'd probably, if I put a couple grams up my bum, I'd probably hope they bust so I could get that free hit, and it wouldn't count as relapsing, or as not being sober. So I might, poke the bag with a needle or something before I put that, that sweet white unicorn up my buttocks. But anyhow, it's a good question, man, and I appreciate it. It's a good question, and I appreciate it. What else, dude? We got another couple of good calls that came in. I want to let you guys first know, of course, about ZipRecruiter.com. Say you need somebody. And this ain't a dating site. This is a site for employers looking for quality employees. Because it's hard out there. You know what I'm saying? You can't just drive down the street and pick up a hitchhiker and they get in the car and they can do all the things that you want them to be able to do. They can type, 80 words per minute, and, they know how to, the different templates for different documents. It's not like the old days. The old days, you pick up a hitchhiker, next thing you know, they have a skill. They built you a house, or they've been watching your children for a couple years. But not anymore. Now, if you want quality employee, you need to use ZipRecruiter.com. Here's what it does. ZipRecruiter, you put what you need out there. ZipRecruiter sends it out to tons of websites who are looking for people. And also, it pulls in people who are looking for similar type work. It finds the best of those, the creme de la crop, and sends them right back to you. So you got that crop creme in your inbox right there. Suddenly, you're only looking through 10 or 12 people maybe to find who's the best, because the thousands of candidates have already been looked through by ZipRecruiter.com. And you can try ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. Use it or lose it. If you got a job, fill it. Try it for free. What do you got to lose, huh? What do you have to lose? A failing business? By making it better. That's all you got to lose. Try ZipRecruiter.com. All right, let's get into a little bit of stuff, man. Here we go. We got another call right here that came in, and I want to get to that now. Here we go.
I just got a little problem going on. My wife recently started drinking, like a couple weeks ago.
Okay, this gentleman called in, and I didn't get a name there, but his wife recently started drinking a couple weeks ago. More?
Her first real night of getting hammered drunk, she wasn't with me. She was with her cousin, and she ended up texting the boy that she used to hook up with.
So she just started drinking, and her first night of getting really drunk, she texted a boy she used to hook up with. More?
I kind of just thought, whatever. We'll just move on from here. She was drunk. But then last night on New Year's Eve, she got pretty drunk again at my brother's house. We ended up having sex in the house, like whatever.
Ooh, you had sex at your brother's house, dude? That's wild. That's so tricky. That's so goofy, dude, and silly. Okay, more?
That's what husbands and wives do. But then later, she ended up hooking up with my sister-in-law.
Wait, what is a sister-in-law? That is your brother's wife? No! Dude, if you and your brother end up banging or dating, dude, or touching each other aggressively, that is crazy, bro. And some places it's illegal. Some places it's not illegal. I think if you go on a boat and go off the coast a little bit, I think you have to be at least, 300 yards out or something. More?
After, my brother went to bed, she just went downstairs with my sister-in-law.
Literally, she did. Boom. Had to put that one in there. More?
And they ended up hooking up, filling each other's private parts, So.
Oh, yeah, dude. Touching that little thermostat, bruh. I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Woo! That cuda.
What's kind of bugging me is isn't that something that every guy wants? Like his wife to be into chicks too, and him? But also, I feel like a little betrayed. I'm just wondering what everyone thinks I should do about the situation, or your thoughts on it. Like, should I be bugged? Should I just let it go? How do I handle this situation?
That's a good question. How would I handle the situation if my wife hooked up with my brother's wife? Well, dude, look, here's how this is going to end up. And this isn't advice, but this is just what's going to happen is it's going to end up that you guys are going to start expecting it. And you guys are going to end up probably having sex with each other's wives or jerking off while they're hooking up somewhere. And if you think there's a safe, and some people, it's not just going to end up where y'all are going to end up giggling about this during a game of Uno, you know, or playing Foursquare together and laughing about it. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is this is going to escalate. And you're going to see these people a lot because it's your brother and his wife. Unless something happens to them or something happens to you guys. You know, unless there's a crime and you guys are victims of a crime or they are, you're going to continue to see them a lot. And this stuff's going to escalate. And next thing you know, dude, y'all going to be buying toys and it's going to get exciting, honestly. You know, and I wish, you know, my brother and his wife, they got a lot going on and I don't have a wife and it's, you know, and I don't know if I don't want that for myself. My family couldn't handle that. But for you, it sounds like you're getting out there. You know, and I don't know. I mean, if people have thoughts, yeah, you guys can hit the hotline, 985-664-9503, and we'll get to it. If you have thoughts for this gentleman, his wife is hooked up with his sister-in-law. That's wild, brother. That is wild. Let's take one more call here, and this is from Andrea, I see right here. Onward.
Hey, Theo. This is Andrea from Arizona. My question for you is...
Thanks for calling, Andrea. More?
At your age, not saying you're old or anything,
mm-hmm.
but at your age, do you feel like you need to be married and have kids? Like, do you feel that type of pressure? And do you even want that? Just curious.
Oh, it's a good question. You know, I do want, most of the time, I want children. You know, most of the time. I do worry that I wouldn't be able to handle it. You know, I do worry that I would not be able to be faithful to my spouse. I do worry that I would be caught in a situation where I am, you know, I have a family and you know, and things don't work out with the wife, and then I have to let my kid down because his parents aren't married anymore. So I think those are a lot of things that, you know, and that's fear. A lot of that's just, you know, things that I fear. I mean, that really scares me. Some of those things. I love children. You know, I talked to my niece today, and she auditioned to be in the school play in Louisiana, and just hearing the excitement in her voice and what her life is like and how everything sounds like so big and how the little things are so important to her, and just hearing a little person talk to you, you know, there's a lot of like little joys there. You know, I want to be able to make sure that I'm healthy enough to make sure my kids have an emotionally stable environment. And that's, and some people had called in a few weeks ago about some of that kind of stuff, about, you know, things you could instill in your son if you had a son. For a woman that was about to have her second kid, a lot of people called in and had some suggestions for her. But yeah, I would like it. You know, I would like it. I think I just have some fears. You know, and sometimes I still don't want to grow up. That's the hard part. You know, and I don't know how much of that, of me not wanting to grow up, is just my fear, like reshaping itself and representing itself to me as that. You know, my fear of commitment. Like, I don't know, all of that could just be the same thing. It just keeps reshaping and showing up again. But it's tough, you know, it's tough. You know, I live in an environment out here in Los Angeles. There's not a lot of examples of that. So to go and and do that and get healthy in that way, in a healthy relationship and healthy marriage, it's obtuse for what's happening out here. So I'm not saying that that's wrong or anything, but you have a lot of examples of that's not what's happening. But I think there's an ideal inside of me that I would love to have a loving wife that I am able to love and support. I'd like to have some children, that feel connected to me, not to just, that it seems like I'm connected, but really that I can connect with, and that they know that I care. And I'd like to be able to have a home where, maybe do some foster family. I mean, I think about a lot of stuff like that, and I know that I have enough like love inside of me for that kind of stuff. I just don't know sometimes if I can fend off my own dark arts, and my own, hold myself together enough to get through it. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I hope that if I stay in in environments where I'm learning from other men and thinking about this kind of stuff and answering questions like this, that that my brain and heart will continue to get to know each other better and find a comfortable ground where they are sure and confident that they'll be able to get me through, not just me, but my family through those times. A lot of it's ego. My ego is dangerous. My ego can be dangerous. And I got to get my self-worth a little bit better. That's one of my problems sometimes, I feel like, is that both of those things. And it's crazy to have one at the same time as the other, to have like a bit of egomania, and an inferiority complex at the same time. But that's sometimes where my brain is, man. It'll, it's a little mixed up, but it's evening out. But I appreciate that question, and I appreciate the episode. I appreciate you guys being here. Everything. I feel like this episode was all over the place, but sometimes they are. What's going on with me? Not much else. Anything else I got to do? Just tell you guys thank you, and just let you guys know that I'll see you this Thursday. And also subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. When we get to 30,000 subscribers, I'm going to put out a new comedy clip that you guys haven't seen. And I'll probably also put it out one day if we don't get there, but I'd like to get there. Continue to hit the hotline if you have any thoughts about this episode, 985-664-9503. You guys be good to yourselves. You probably deserve it. Oh, am I tired? What am I? I don't even know what I am. Sometimes I just don't know what I am.
Celebrate living, celebrate misery.
You know that soon we're gonna die. But thank you guys for being here with me today. I think I needed that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jonathan Kite, and welcome to Kite Club, a podcast where I'll be sharing thoughts on things like current events, stand-up stories, and 7 ways to pleasure your partner. The answer may shock you. Sometimes I'll interview my friends. Sometimes I won't. And as always, I'll be joined by the voices in my head.
You have 3 new voice messages.
A lot of people are talking about Kite Club. I've been talking about Kite Club for so long, longer than anybody else. So great.
Hey, sweetheart, here's the deal. Anyone who doesn't listen to Kite Club is a dodgy bloody wanker. Do you know what I mean?
Hi, I'll take a quarter pounder with cheese and a McFlurry.
Sorry, sir, but our ice cream machine is broken.
Oh, no!
I think Tom Hanks just butt-dialed me. Anyway, first rule of Kite Club is tell everyone about Kite Club. Second rule of Kite Club is tell everyone about Kite Club. Third rule, like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or watch us on YouTube, yeah? And yes, don't worry, my Brad Pitt impression will get better.
Bang, bang. know it. It's that old familiar thing. It's that screen door on that front porch. You know where you are, brother. You know where you are, sister. You're home. Celebrate our days. Oh, man. Thank you guys for being here with me today. Happy Monday morning to you. And it is Monday. And it is February 5 in the year 2018. And we are here in outer space. Can you believe that? We're in outer space right now. And everybody's always talking about, meet me at the mall or, GPS. Dude, we are in outer space. We are astronauts. You realize that? We are astronauts right now. So if you meet somebody and they seem like they might be a little bit foreign, they might be an alien. And I'm not talking about an illegal alien or illegal. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about if you meet somebody and they got this crazy look in their eyes and they seem like something wild is going on, like they're picking their nose, but from the inside of their body without even using their fingers. If they seem geeked up, like the universe is just tickling a feather against the back of their brain stem, then maybe they're an alien. I mean, it's not that far-fetched to think that there could be aliens amongst us. Why? Because we live in outer space, guys. That's why. And if you were an alien and you came here, would you tell everybody? Would you tell everybody you're an alien? Probably not. You probably wouldn't. That's the first right there. I caught it. You probably wouldn't tell anybody you're an alien. Or at least in the past you wouldn't. I think these days, now you might tell people, oh yeah, I am an alien. Because now it's like the me generation. Now you'd be at a party and you'd have, a couple gin and tonics. And next thing you know, you're over in the corner showing one of your neighbors your frickin' tentacle dick or whatever, or showing your, how your nipples can light up. You'd be now, I think if we're going to know if there are aliens amongst us, we will know it soon, because I don't think that people can keep secrets as well as they used to. And maybe that's just me being, a little bit outlandish, but I believe that. I don't think we can keep secrets as well as we used to. There's not a lot of sacredity anymore. Things aren't as sacred. And I know secret doesn't then go to sacred. I know that's not how it goes. I know that those two words aren't connected, but in a way they are. It's, there's not a lot of secrets anymore. Everything's out there. All the information, it's all out there. And they say knowledge is power, and I think it is. But I also think some of it's just, you can go on with them facts, Jack. Why don't you put your facts back in a bag and go on back down this mountain? Because we don't want all that around here. And I'm not saying that I don't want to be informed, but I just want to say at a certain point for me, where information starts to beat down on my imagination, where I can't even, where imagining isn't even as fun, adios, amigos. Or adios, migos, if you're listening to them rap boys. Because that's where I'm at. Super Bowl is on. I met Gerard Butler. Got to talk to him the other night at the Comedy Store. So, sometimes things are planned. Sometimes God have plans, or a higher power have plans for you. And that's what happened, because I know in the past I'd planned on meeting Gerard Butler, and then I didn't get to meet him, and here he was, bam, him and his buddy, his boy Freddie, and they popped out and said, what's up to your boy? And we chatted for a while, and it was a good conversation. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Here's what I'm doing. I just watched the first quarter, and then I decided I'm going to start podcasting. And for me, man, out the gate, this bowl I wasn't feeling as into this Super Bowl. I don't know if anybody else felt that way. it didn't feel like the Super Bowl to me. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, this is the Super Bowl? It just didn't feel super. It felt like a regular bowl. And that's kind of the vibe that I got. It felt like a regular bowl to me. I was like, oh, is this? It felt like a regular game. And I don't know. First I wondered, well, maybe we're so used to things happening so fast now that the 2-week delay between the championship, NFC and AFC championship, and the actual Super Bowl, that's gotten to the point where it's too long. That was one of my first thoughts, like, you know, because there comes a time, like, there's a point where everything jumps the shark. You know, like those Beats by Dre headphones. Remember those 3 years ago with the wide headphones? They're similar to the one. They're similar. They're similar to the ones that I have on in the YouTube. They're similar to the ones that I have on in the YouTube, if you can see the YouTube. You know, these Beats by Dre. But they were the big headphones, right? They were the coolest thing. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, I looked at somebody with them on, and I was like, those are done. Those are over. You start seeing things like that, like, that's not a thing anymore. Those are over. And that's just part of how culture is. It evolves, you know. And suddenly, something's over. And I just felt like that. Like, maybe that's the thing. Like, maybe this 2 weeks is just too long. You got too many other things that can happen. And our attention spans have gotten so short that 2 weeks is just not. Now, also, I could have still been butthurt because my New Orleans Saints, gave up one of the greatest plays in American history and probably in world history to the Minnesota Vikings. And that's what happened. But I stopped it at the first quarter, and I decided to come and podcast. So I got to change the batteries in my headphones right now. But we got a good cast, man. We had that gentleman called in last week, Mickey. On Thursday's episode, we had Sweet Mickey called in, and he's terminally ill. You know, he have 2 bad lungs in his body. And the Lord or the devil or somebody gave him some bad lungs. And that's not up to us. We didn't do it. But he's got them, you know. He's got them. And so we had a lot of callers call in and have suggestions for him. And so we're going to get into some of that in a little bit. Not yet, man. I want to tell you guys about meeting Sweet Gerard. So I met Sweet Gerard Butler. And, man, I'll say this, you know. I'm a heterosexual adult. You know, and I would say if you chop me open and divided me up into 100 pieces, I would say probably 97 of those pieces would be heterosexual. And 3% of those pieces might be getting wild, you know, being naughty. You know what I'm saying? Peeking around the roller rink. Seeing who might have a little bit of bulge in their forefront in their trousers. But that doesn't mean I would try anything wild. That just means I might have that double vision. That doesn't mean I want to do anything sexual. It might be that I see a man's tricep, you know, in a distance and say, dang, oh, he armed up, you know? You know what I'm saying? He armed up. And so that's just all it is, you know? He could get out of a pool easy without using the ladder. You know what I'm saying? Because that boy tried up. He got them T-ceps, them triceratops. And he out the pool like that without even using the ladder. Just like a damn seal. You know, just like an otter that's trying to get risque and get out of the pool and take his chances sipping on air. You know, and I don't even know if otters if they sip on water or not, or breathe water. Some animals breathe water. Breathe water. But anyhow, but I'm just saying, so that's where I'm at inside of myself, you know. Now, who knows? You know, when I get older, 70, 80, I might be out there. You know what I'm saying? I might be out there gumming down on some straight up street wiener or whatever, or local. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter, okay? But I'm saying I saw Gerard Butler and the man have beautiful eyes, okay? He has, first of all, he could have one eye and you wouldn't even notice. That's how handsome the dude is. He could have, because every time you see a one-eyed dude, you're like, damn. You know? You try to pretend like they don't have one eye, but they have one eye. And it's hard. You're like, do I look like because it's not the normal. Usually when you look into somebody's eyes, your eyes kind of zoom in with theirs and y'all are eyed up. Eye to eye, they call it. It's an old saying. But now, when you catch somebody and they got that patch and they patched up, your eyes don't know what to do. And then your eyes start getting all crazy. And you're like, do I look at there? Do I look there? Do I look there? Do I look there? It's kind of like no whammies, no whammies. And it's, but Gerard Butler, I'm just saying this, the man have two beautiful eyes. Beautiful eyes, dude. And you're thinking, yeah, whatever, I've seen blue eyes. Dude, his eyes, I'm telling you this, man. I'm telling you this. From a straight man, for the most part, until I'm 70 or 80, when I might get out there and meet a man. But I don't know that, and you don't know that. And it's okay if I do or if you do. If you get out there and meet a man when you're older, after you've already had a wife and had a family. You know what I'm saying? You've done your due diligence. You've done your job as a father and as a husband. And if you get out and about, you know, and you out there skeeting out with some, you know, fella at the senior center or whatever, that's whatever you want. But what I'm saying is this, that Gerard Butler, he could have an eye patch on, you wouldn't even notice. That's how handsome the dude is, right? He probably is, the dude is 100% handsome. 100% handsome. And he was cool as could be, man. He came out, his buddy came out, we started chatting, we swapped information. He said he was a fan, he'd seen me about 6 weeks ago or whatever. Right before I was on Fighter and the Kid podcast, I went in, and that's when I saw Gerard Butler at the Comedy Store. And they're like, Gerard Butler's in the back of the room. And I was a little bit nervous, but then I just, you know what I'm saying, I let out. Because on stage, I'm trying not to be about my nerves anymore. It's time to shine, you know? It's time to shine. But then he came out, man, we chatted on the front porch for a while. It was cool. And then it was Pauly Shore's birthday last week. It was the same night. And Pauly Shore, man, he turned 50. You know, beautiful man, Pauly Shore. And they had a lot of deviant, they had a lot of wild human animals out at this party. And they had a lot of porn stars and, you know, people with them fancy crotches and, you know, vulvas that can juggle and all of that. They had all them girls out there with them juggling vulvas and all of that. And everybody was out there. And that was at the Comedy Store, and they had a band. And some girls on stage singing horrible karaoke. This girl was so bad. And people were like, oh my God, what's this girl doing up there? And then I heard some other girl say, it's probably just some gal that blew Pauly for some stage time. And that made me laugh. Because the truth is, it probably was. And it was a great time, man, and it was nice to see. I mean, Pauly Shore grew up in the Comedy Store. Can you imagine? Dude, if I'm there for 3 or 4 hours, man, you could get anything you want at the Comedy Store. You could get joy. You could get pain. You could start a family. You could buy, you know what I'm saying? You could gram up if you need a couple grams of this or that. And I'm not naming chemicals, so if you're thinking of something, then you can think about what you want. But it's that kind of place, you know? It's that forbidden kitten. And you go there and you put both your hands out and you pet that poissé. You feel me? Because that's the kind of place it is. It's that forbidden kitten. And whatever your forbidden kitten is, you can get out there at the Comedy Store and you can catch that cat. Because that's the kind of place it is. But good to be here, man. I made myself some coffee. Dude, I went to the, right by my place over here. I live in Los Angeles, and right by my place over here in Los Angeles, they have a graveyard where Marilyn Monroe is buried. And now, Hugh Hefner's finally in the wall next to her. And that had been like, I think he'd bought her a grave site a long time ago or something, and they'd planned to be buried right next to each other. And I've been there a bunch, probably about 10 times over my existence here in Los Angeles. And finally I get over there, and both of them they were both, shelved in the wall. It's that mausoleum style. And both of them are shelved up in the wall, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I wonder if in the future, like whenever they have graves, like if you go to a cemetery, if they'll just have like a thing where you rub your phone over it and it shows you who it is. And a video maybe even that they get to leave. That'd be wild, huh? I think about that kind of stuff sometimes, about the future or, I used to think a lot about, I used to have a lot of visions and stuff about things that could happen. Like when I was young, I used to think that at one point they would have a a disc or something you would put in your car, but the band, they would have a hologram of the actual artist, whatever musician it was, and the artist would perform on your dashboard. So while you were driving, they would have these holograms performing. It could be anybody. It could be Chris Cross. It could be, Gerald Levert, Hall & Oates, Lyle Lovett. It could be anything. Sting, Steven Seagal. It could be anybody performing on your dashboard. And I used to have ideas of that and visions of that. But yeah, man, I met Gerard Butler. He was beautiful. And he was cool, man, And I'm not saying I'm trying to wind up on Gerard. I'm not trying to be like that. And they call him Jerry. One of his buddies called him Jerry. I'm like, damn, bro, that's Jerry. That's fucking two-eyed Jerry right there. I mean, and this guy had portals to the nether sphere. He could be an alien. Gerard Butler could be an alien. And it's like, are there aliens out there? A lot of questions already in the air, guys. Are there aliens out there? Do Gerard Butler need two eyes? Dude, I'm just telling you, man, I'm not trying to be wild. When I was growing up, I had a friend that he had nice blue eyes, and I always was jealous. Because, look, let's be honest. Blue-eyed people are doing well. You don't see a fucking homeless dude with blue eyes. You know what I'm saying? You don't see some dude out there, jaying out behind the Shonies, Some guy self-skeeting in a van out there by himself out there, outside of a Widespread Panic concert, all hopped up on ecstasy or something and fucking a damn grilled cheese sandwich in a van. One of those vans with a ladder on it. Where's the ladder go? What the fuck? Talk about hooking a ridiculous accoutrement to something. Hey, here's a van. How can we make it look cooler? Let's put a fucking ladder on the side of it. Guess what? You go up the ladder, you're on top of a van, you idiot. Why don't we hook a water purifier on the side? That's cool. You know what I'm saying? Why don't we put a paper towel machine on the side? Right? In case you're having one of those crazy days where you got wet hands and you're standing outside of a van. Some of the shit they put on there, we don't need all of this. Let's put a soap dispenser on the side of the van. Actually, that's kind of cool. Because if you milling around a van a little bit too much, dude, you can, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be surprised if you came in a little bit dirty. We tried something a little different this week, man. I decided to not have, usually I got Shy Chris Perez, and that's my Latino sidekick who's here affiliating and helping out. And I got Corey Kaz, who does the editing. And I got Bud Galloway, who came to fix the studio up this week and make it bigger, which he did. Also, he didn't clean up anything, and he hit all the cables. So, basically, it took me fucking 2 hours to set this shit up. But, what am I going to do? Try and be grateful. That's it. Be happy that at least anybody wants to come and help out and be a part of things. That's it. That's it. That's it. Because I'm not going to be an alien to myself. I'm not going to be an alien in my own life. When I start just holding too much regret or too much judgment, that's when I feel my inner alien key up. And that's when I want to climb up that van ladder. Maybe there is a good point, when you're just standing outside of a van and you're like, fuck, man, I can't take it just, being outside of this van anymore. I'll see you motherfuckers later. And then it's just like, and you're just on top of the van. Whatever, man. That's what's been going on. But I met Gerard Butler, beautiful two-eyed Jerry. They called him Two-Eyed Jerry. They had a train hit another train in Amtrak. And I'll say this, man. That's the risk you take on the track, baby. And I hate to say that. But that's the risk you take on the track. And I've been on Amtrak, man. And they had a dude on there one time I remember something was in his eye socket. He could put a lit cigarette, in between his eye and that eye meat that's right under your eye. And he could inhale it that way. And that was wild. And we would watch him do that at night. Me and my brother, we used to take that train, from Hammond, Louisiana, all the way up to Chicago, Champaign-Urbana. And my grandfather would pick us up there. And then he would drive us over to my grandparents' house where we would spend some time. And then my grandparents didn't want me to come anymore, and they just wanted my brother to come. And so, but that's life. You know, sometimes your grandparents don't want you. You know, what are we going to do, bro? We're going to move onward. That's it. But that game is rocking right now. That game is rocking. So I think here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm going to check in with the game real quick. You're not going to notice because I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to watch a little bit more. When I folded out of the game, it was 9-3. Somebody had missed an extra point, and that was Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is that city of brotherly love, you know, and it's very much like New Orleans. They got that vibe. You know, they got that African American culture. They got that black vibe. They got that, you know, real things are happening. People's out on the streets living life. You know, they got some good food. They got some gunplay. You know, you got a lot of whites hiding in the distance. You know, it's similar city work. Now, it doesn't have, Philadelphia is more like that. You know, they got that historical kind of aspect. I think Thomas Jefferson up there. Who else from Philadelphia? Probably, who else would be from Philadelphia? I don't know, man. Somebody else. Other people, you know. But it's a wild city, and I know they're excited, dude. I went to this party one time in Philadelphia at night. And it was a bar, but it was like in a house. It was pretty bizarre. And they would stop the music, not joking, between every song and do the Eagles fight song, whatever it was. And Lord knows if somebody did see an eagle up there in Philadelphia, they'd shoot that bitch down and eat it. I mean, and that's, I mean, I'm amazed that that's still their mascot. You know, I'm surprised it's not the TV dinner. You know what I'm saying? But they set up in Philly, man. They had these dudes was like trying to get me to hook up with one of their friends, you know, this girl. And they're like, yeah, man, take home, whatever. I don't know what her name was, Sheila or something, or Shayla. Take home Shayla, you know, she's a real slam pig. And that, I guess, meant somebody who was sexually active. Somebody that's a slam pig. And I never even heard of that. You know, somebody being a slam pig and somebody being sexually active like that. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check in on that game. You're not going to notice. I'm going to be right back in just a second, and I'll be able to update on how I felt so far in the game. But so far, here's what I felt. I felt like it didn't feel like the Super Bowl to me. This is after the first quarter. I'm excited to see Tom Brady out there. That feels exciting. I thought that long shot that Philadelphia took into the end zone out the gate, that was exciting because, you know, you see some of these young quarterbacks, even though Foles isn't brand new, but you see these guys get in there and they get nervous. You know, and you see Tom Brady out there, and they just had a video of him kissing his son, you know, which I think is fine. I think you don't see enough of that. I mean, it might have been a little wild because Tom was laying down. That's the part that made it wild. You know, but I think if you want to kiss your son a little bit, that shit was a little bit Roman, really. That shit got a little bit ancient Rome on me. You know, it had that Targaryen. They was looking a little Targaryen there suddenly when, you know, his son leaned down and kissed him. And it looked a little bit like the father was like Tom Brady had died. There was a lot of things going on there for me when I saw that video. And if you haven't seen that video, it's Tom Brady kisses his son. His son comes over and kisses him, and he said, it's not enough. He said, that's not enough. I want that championship kiss. And look, dude, if my dad, I'll be honest with you, my father never won shit, dude. And actually, he borrowed, I remember, about $70 off of me when he died, right before he died. And when you $70 off of a damn 16-year-old or 14-year-old or whatever, that was probably 70% of my retirement. You know, and he borrowed that money off of me. And look, I'm just saying I'm just saying this. If Tom Brady's my dad, dude, I would kiss him. Man, I would have kissed that dude, bro. I might even kiss him on the neck a little bit, you know, and not even sexually, just like, fuck, this is my dad, you know? Just like Russell, it's like, you know, when you got them hitters out there, there's something different about them. I mean, that's like Russell Crowe. If I were him, I'd wear sunglasses because somebody would steal one of that dude's fucking eyeballs. Like, that's the thing. If I ran up on Russell Crowe, man, and I had a piece on me or something, you know, man, I ain't taking his wallet, I fucking pull that piece out, put it up by his dome and say, give me that eyeball. You know what I'm saying? Fucking spit that bitch into a cup, Jerry. You know? What did I call him? Russell Crowe? I meant Jerry Butler, man. Gerard. Spit that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if your eye socket can spit something out, but spit that eyeball into a cup, Jerry. Because I'm auctioning this bitch off the internet. And then fast forward years later, I'm on a train on an Amtrak and I see a guy in the corner smoking a cigarette out of his eye socket, empty eye socket, and it's Gerard Butler showing out, showing his new skills. Because when you're a man like that, I don't think you fade fast. I think some heroes have hero built into them. You know, and that reminds me, I saw John Mayer the other night at the Comedy Store. And I know I'm name dropping in this episode, but it's just crazy. I got into a conversation with him. We talked for about 8 minutes. And I'm not bragging. I'm not fucking whatever. You know, John Mayer's a wildcat. I mean, I'm envious of probably some parts of his life. I'm certainly envious of his brain. I'm envious of his music style. Probably most of his life. Dude is also tall. You know. But here I have a funny story about John Mayer. So this was about 12 years ago. I was working as a tour manager, and that's basically where you carry the guitar and drive around a musician. And it just so happened that the musician was a friend of mine. This actually might have been about 14 years ago. And the musician was a friend of mine. His name was Josh Kelly. And so next thing you know, I'm driving Josh all around the country, and he hired me as his tour manager because I was his friend. And we had a great mutual friend. Anyway, so next time on that tour, we met John Mayer. Because John's music was coming out the same time as Josh's was. They were just both breaking as artists. And then we met John Mayer. And a lot of my friends, I was at a party, and that's where I met John Mayer at. And I had been listening to John Mayer's music because I was listening to all these breaking artists at the time. So I see him at this party. I know who he is. A lot of my friends who were at the party did not know. He wasn't the John Mayer that people know about now, as popular. And so I was like, and I met him there. Anyway, fast forward 11, 12 years. I'm at the Comedy Store one night, and John Mayer and Jeff Ross are friends. And he comes walking around the corner, and I just like bump kind of chest to chest with him. And I was like, hey, John, I met you. And before I could finish, he goes, I met you on Lafayette Street. He said, yeah. And that's where I'd met him at. I'd met him about 12 years earlier on Lafayette Street. And here he just remembered it. He got that wild brain. Some people have that. They got that hero circuit board. He could be an alien. Now, I wouldn't put it past John Mayer to be an alien. And I don't mean that in like a negative alien or something. I just mean that as a basic regular alien. Because the man has a lot of skills. I've seen him do stand-up comedy. He's pretty, he does a good job with that. But he just has that brain, he's got that brain that's on that next level. He's like, we're all using a push mower and he's running on a weed whacker. He's just got one of those wild brains. And I think if there were aliens amongst us, that's probably what they would have. Because that would go under the radar. If you see something out in the distance, with 4 arms, we already shoot things with antlers. So even if something shows up with an antler, it's fucking clock, It's taking a couple slugs to the dome, you know what I'm saying? It's all of a sudden, for every, buck or wildebeest out there, it's, every night is Detroit. Every night is Detroit. Or every night is Chicago or New Orleans for them, for those animals, because they could get popped all the time. But anyhow, he has that brain. He just remembered, And then we talked the other night for a little bit, and it was we just talked about like dating and relationships and that kind of thing. But anyhow, just a crazy week, man. That's just, and that was this weekend. That was Thursday and Friday night. And that was this weekend. But I'm gonna check in on the game. I'll be back in a second. You won't notice. And I'm back. Wow. So that was that halftime show. That's what I saw up until. And some good offense out there, man. The game's looking pretty tight. You know, Philadelphia just looks fearless out there. Like, they don't look like there's a lot of intimidation, you know, that these are the Patriots. You can see the Patriots' age a little bit showing. I mean, Brady still is, I mean, the guy's 6'7", you know, so he's throwing from, you know, it's like throwing from the second floor of a building. So he have that, you know, that ability. Even when he's throwing downfield, it's like he's throwing downhill all day. You know, he can throw a 30-yard pass and it's downhill. You know, he just has that, you know, he's got that ability. You know, and that's what happened when you get that little lip lock from your son, you get that extra ability, I bet. He got that son love in him. He's got that vibe, you know. And I saw the halftime show, and it was good, man. I thought it was good. I thought that Timberlake just really, you know, he's like the closest thing we got to a black guy, I think, as white people. You know, I used to think it was Michael Rappaport, but it's not him. It's I think Timberlake's the closest. You know, when I was young, it was Rappaport was kind of that guy. You remember he was in a lot of you know, he always played the black white guy, or the white guy in the black in a lot of black shows. But Timberlake's, you know, he's the closest thing that we got. I think he's the closest thing that we got. I thought he did a great job of just entertaining, and I thought he heated up as it went on. You know, we started off, he seemed a little bit, he looked, you know, he seemed however old he was, and by the time he got to the end, I'm like, damn, this boy, he might be about 14 now. You know, if he performs for another 5 minutes, he's gonna end up back on the Mickey Mouse Club. You know, because he was running on a lot of good cylinders there. So that's it, man. That's all I got really about that. You know, the game's still going on. Hold on. A little bit of our intro music popping in. The game's still going on, and I'll check back in a little bit. But Philadelphia was up by, I think, 8 or 10. Yeah, so let's get back into it, man. We're going to crack into some of these calls in just a minute, but I wanted to give you guys a state of the podcast address. And that's just basically kind of like what's going on with the podcast, where we're at, and what's cracking. Overall, things are going really good, you know. I want to say that 100%. You know, the listenership is up. We're getting, you know, we're up to like a decent number. We'd love to get to try to get to, you know, more subscribers on YouTube. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff that's kind of going on and some of the stuff that's going to be happening, you know. And really, it's just trying to get back to the simplicity of when the show started. And that's something I wanted to do this week, was just kind of, you know, just be here by myself doing it. Because that's really what it's all about. And I wanted to thank you guys for your support and for, you know, just for, you know, a lot of calls. A lot of guys calling in about some real things that are going on. And, and it helps me stay grounded and helps me think about, you know, people's lives outside of my own. Because that's when I'm the best as a person, I find, when I'm not thinking about myself. Because, you know, I have that infection. I have that infection of ego. And it's built into us. And that infection makes me think about myself a lot of times. You know, so I just want to let you guys know that this is going to continue to be a safe place. I'm going to get back in and check in the voicemails again, so that I know, you know, exactly who's calling in and what's going on. Oh, it's a buddy of mine's brother. Sorry, my phone's hooked up. You know, and we're going to keep, you know, a lot of guys were here whenever we started. You know, a lot of those OG, you know, Tom from North Carolina, One Leg Pat, JP, Animal Guy. You know, he's going to be calling back in. I just got a picture. He sent me a picture yesterday of his stepdaddy kind of, you know, getting into an argument with an alligator, a small alligator or a fucking strong lizard, one or the other. Rico from New Hampshire, you know, everybody. Jesse, Jimmy Diamora, who sent in who sent in a lot of audio for us to check out. Anybody that submitted music, Jesse Lucero, you know, Starlight Stevie, who sent that stuff in last week, who sent that hitter in last week. You know, the YouTubers, Johnson 543, Johnson 543. Anybody, just anybody. I'm just saying, people who've been a part, we're going to keep, you know, we want to keep that localized vibe. So that's some of the goal. Trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. You know, we have some goals in the big picture, you know, and then to continue to try to do new stuff. You know, I had the studio's a little bit bigger. You guys can't see it, but we're going to try to have a guest on and just see how that feels. You know, I mean, I still get nervous sometimes just talking to somebody. So to talk to somebody and do it in front of other people, you know, it's baby steps for me, some of this stuff. But, you know, to try to continue to do this past Thursday every week, to do a follow-up. Because there's been some cool stuff, you know. Some cool men and women out there calling in with stuff that's going on in their lives and us being able to discuss it as a group. So I just want to let you guys know that that's kind of what's going on. And really all that it is not much. You know, just trying to stick with the same thing. By the end of the year, I'd love to have all my own equipment, you know, that we own. And I want to thank everybody on Patreon who helps out and supports there. You know, that money, I mean, you know, as soon as this freaking lens comes in, because some assholes who are selling lenses out there aren't doing shit on the up and up. Because I've ordered these lenses and they haven't come in, so we can't activate the second camera yet. But, you know, it's trial and error. And I want to thank Gray Block Pizza because they've been there, you know, and they've been supportive all year. And I'm just really grateful because it's things like that are helping us. And by the end of the year, maybe be in a studio, being in an actual, you know, an on-site location somewhere where we can do some real gang type stuff, you know, 420 Gucci gang all day. So you know that. So that's some things that are going on, and that's just the state of the podcast address, and really it's just a thank you for you guys' support. Thank you, Gray Block. Thank you, everybody. Here we go. So let's get into it, man. You know, I already told you guys what happened this past weekend, man. Ran across a lot of straight-up superstars who could be aliens, who have that ability. You know, like, what if somebody came, you got a message one day in your inbox and it said that you were an alien. Could you handle it? Seriously, man. Some of y'all are like, what the fuck's Theo talking about? I'll tell you what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. I'm talking about real shit. I'm talking about things that could be possible, man. You don't think, I mean, look at us. We're in space, brosy and chick and ladies. We're in space. You don't think somebody out here could be milling around as a fucking alien? Walking around at night by themselves? Fucking drinking gasoline and chocolate milk? And, you know, they could probably do crazy stuff. Hide inside their own ass. Who knows? I've seen crazier shit, man. You know? I've seen crazy shit. Dude, I knew a blind kid that could fucking jump high. And I used to fight him. And so until you've been through shit like that, you know, you know, when you go through stuff like that, you start to believe what's possible out there. You go fight a blind kid that could jump high, dude. He's got the aggression of a Wolverine. And that's a bull and a Wolverine, you ass. And I'm sorry to get heated, man, but I think the one thing that if we did have aliens now, they would admit it. They would say I'm an alien. Aliens in the past? No. There would be people would hunt them, pitchfork them. You know, people, I mean, fucking some people can't even, you know, talk to somebody who drinks Pepsi if they're a Coke drinker. So, you know, 20 years ago, people couldn't have handled somebody, you know, slipping them off to the side and saying, guess what? Daddy's on that alien tip, you know? You know, daddy's out there at night fucking snorting stardust, dude. And eating fucking pieces of glass in the garage, you know? Because, the orb in the distance says he has to. We couldn't have handled it. But now if an alien were here, I think not only will we handle it, you know, he'd be like, I mean, he'd be like The Rock. He'd be like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but he would have, you know, he'd have millions of Twitter followers and Instagram followers and everything. He would just have fans now. And if he was an alien now, he would admit it. He'd be like, look, I'm an alien, you know, so give me all the free shit. I'm awesome, you know. But let's get into the rest of the podcast, man. Let's get into the rest of it. We had Mickey call in, dude. So many great calls came in from my boy Mickey. Sweet Mickey, boy. And Mickey's out there running down. His lungs are run down. And so we're going to listen to a little bit of Mickey right here. Take a hit off of Mickey.
Hey, yo, Theo, man. This is Mickey calling from Seattle. So here's my situation, man. I'm 30 years old, and I'm currently at the end stage of a lung disease. Now, my current lungs don't have very long left. probably about 2.5 years. Hopefully we can stretch them out, but.
So like, and this came in on Thursday's episode. I'm just playing it against us in case some of you guys didn't hear it. Mickey got them empty hitters, man. You ever had a gallon of milk and it gets to the end and you're shaking it like that, just see how much milk is still in there? And that's where Mickey's at. Onward.
The silver lining is that I'm going to be soon on the lung transplant list. I'm hoping. I'm going to get listed, which will give me a few more years to figure this whole thing out.
That's what I'm saying. So Mickey's trying to get that time. And I texted with Mickey the other day, and he said he appreciated, how we discussed it last week on the cast and that we had a good time. And we just talked openly about what's going on, about what's going on with his life. And he's on the, that he's running light on air because we've all been somewhere. We've all been running a little bit light on something, but Mickey's got them ticking. He's got them tickers in him and those things are just tick-tocking the whole time. And so he's hoping to get on that transplant list. And I know that that's a special moment, man, when that happens, that you get on that list and you have that, you have that hope. And we're certainly going to wish that for you. And I even texted Mickey. I said, look, man, we'll try to find you a lung through the podcast, because there's been some callers out there. Fucking my boy JP down in Alabama, he's only have one leg. So he probably wouldn't, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he probably wouldn't mind, coming in on fucking, one fucking, air tit. You know what I'm saying? That lung. Let's hear a little more, Mickey.
And it's been a really difficult time, and I've been single through it. My question to you, man, is during this difficult time that's really ruined my confidence, I wanted to ask you and the viewers what they think. What are some good steps that I can take to start boosting my confidence and my self-worth?
There you go. Man, and you know what this makes me think, man, honestly, is that it's so wild that we are in a time where men are struggling so much with their self-confidence and self-worth. That even it's like no matter what is going on. I mean, here is Mickey with a real ailment. This is something that is probably very rare. I remember when my sister needed a liver, it was, one in like 1 million children was born with the issue that she had. And I don't even know what Mickey did. I don't know. Some people blow through their own stuff. You might, if he's out there fucking huffing gas or something or doing that kind of shit and blowing through his lungs, then that's different. But if this is something that, that came into him by nature, then that's another different, and that's more real. But, here you are, you have this thing going on, man, and you're dealing with the same stuff still. It's just wild. It's wild that, that it's like no matter who we are, that sometimes there's so many problems that are, that just connect us all. You could have somebody out there with no head or no arms and legs, and they would still be worrying about self-confidence, and these sorts of things, man. And it just, I don't know how it makes me feel. Man, it makes me feel, I guess, a little bit, I don't know if I want to say, not ungrateful, but it makes me feel a little disappointed maybe in myself. That here I am and I'm healthier than Mickey is right now. And that I'm not taking all the steps I could take all the time to try and boost my own self-confidence and stuff like that. Even though I know it's not one of those things that's, that's always easily fixable. But it's like here I am just, here I am. I don't have a ticking time. I don't have, 2 ticking time bombs in my body. I'm not on the clock. And so since that's the case, I'm not worried about as much about, always getting myself to wellness. Whereas here's Mickey's out there. He's on the clock. And one of the things he wants to do, he wants to man up in case he doesn't have the opportunity to stick around. He wants to defeat that self-confidence, And, man, it's just, I can't imagine what you've been through. But some of our listeners have some thoughts for you and some suggestions. And we're going to crack in a little bit that right now. Here we go, Mickey.
Yeah, Theo, it's Ricky Dickey from Pittsburgh.
Oh, and this is Ricky Dicky from Pittsburgh, and I've never even, I don't know, I guess that's your real name. I'm not even sure, brother. I don't think I ever called anybody Ricky Dicky. Onward.
I'm calling in to talk about our boy Mickey and the lungs. And I think his best bet might be to find someone with, another ailment. Someone that needs a kidney or a liver, or they need lungs, and they could breathe life into each other. No pun intended.
Well, I mean, it seems like obvious pun intended right there, but you know what, man? You might be right. It is funny how if you have somebody that has some of the same issues, that it brings you together. And that's one thing that sharing issues does, man. When we're able to share, like, what makes us hurt. When you're able to share that with somebody, it's crazy how it brings you together. I've noticed that in brief moments with dating and stuff like that, when I'm actually able to try and voice what is going on, what scares me, that it ends up, instead of thinking, fuck, I'm going to say this and this person is going to hate me, or this person's not going to care about me anymore. Instead, it just makes them understand me. And so much care usually comes out of understanding that it's fascinating. So you may be onto something there. That sometimes you can see what the feeling of, and you see it in somebody else. And if you're able to be a good partner for that person because you can understand them the best, because you're saddling up on those feelings and riding that similar vibe, whatever it is, every day. Now, if you're talking about just mix and matching people, that's Frankensteinian. You know what I'm saying? If you're talking about finding somebody with a one leg and somebody with a different leg and matching them up, then that's wild. That's, that's just, it makes sense if you're charting, if you're, doing a drawing, and if you're trying to, if you're doing a human puzzle, a puzzle made out of humans. But it doesn't make sense realistically, I don't think. But I don't know, if you had somebody that, their heart didn't work and yet somebody's brain didn't work, and you put them together, could make beauty. But that's Ricky Dicky out of Pittsburgh, man. Mickey, that's a little bit of some suggestions from Mickey. And also, I know I'm going to be in Tacoma, and I'm going to be in Tacoma, and I'm announcing it right now, the 15th and 16th. That's Thursday and Friday, and that's outside of Seattle and Tacoma, and we're going to try to get a date for Mickey, because, in the rest of his call, if you listened last week, he talks about he wants to have more confidence. He'd like to fall in love. He'd like to meet a lady. And he wasn't talking about sex. He wasn't talking about, just reaching down into some moist, touching that moist. He was talking about being out there and maybe looking for some love. He was out there trying to get up in that, that baritone maker in between those ribs. And that's the heart. So just a lot going on in this, man. Let's listen to another call that came in right here. But we're going to try to set Mickey up there in Tacoma. So if you have somebody out there in Tacoma who's a lady, and she's got, you know what I'm saying? She don't mind a little guy who's, maybe, who might, have to take an early break during sex, then maybe you could set us up and get my boy Mickey out there, and let's, maybe him will go, and him, and I'll bring a lady or something, and we'll take some ladies out on a double date or something. Or we'll just set them up and let him and this girl go out there and have a good time, But no matter what, Mickey's going to be my guest up there in Tacoma, man, and I'm looking forward to it. We texted about it. He said he's going to keep his schedule open. Let's hear some other calls you guys had for him. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, this is Jason calling from California in regards to the guy who's waiting for a lung transplant.
Yeah, that guy's Mickey, brother. Okay? Thanks for calling, Jason. Onward.
He's asking how he can be more confident. There's absolutely, totally a way that he can be confident just as much as the rest of us. Because I think at the end of the day, the person who has the most integrity, who is the most true to their soul, that is like the most real man that you can be. And if you're ever in the presence of a person who is just authentically empowered, with no guilt, with total integrity, and total devotion to just doing the right thing for all who are involved, there is a sense of energy that person carries that even a very large, confident bodybuilder would have to kind of recognize that.
Wow. Wow, man. I think you might have just put everybody on blast right there. Like in our hearts, you know? I mean, that's I mean, that was that's a real, that was awesome, Jason. I appreciate that. Let's listen to the end of this and then I'll.
And respect it. Lack of confidence, I would start to really build up personal integrity, start helping people, start making people feel better, and start being the one person who is brave enough to be nice and do the righteous thing, especially if you only have a few years left. That could be your gift.
Wow. Man, I don't even know what to say, really. I mean, that's, you know, that's why I'm the middleman here. Because I don't have that. I don't have those words inside of me like that man did right there. But if for some reason when he said that, I know that's the truth. When you have that, when you are the truest, man, it's like you're surfing your own. It's like surfing your own. It's like surfing on your own semen, bro. And I don't mean to be crass, but I bet that's how it feels. When you are guilt-free and you are living in the place where you are just going to be righteous. You're going to try your best. You know, now the problem is when you do that, it's just that's when that ego starts taking hits off of your righteous after you doing the right things and starts telling it, oh, I do the right things. You know, and that's where the ego comes in. But man, to live clean and free like that, and maybe I'm talking because I've never done that, you know? I mean, I've never lived completely, you know, out of debt emotionally or out of debt spiritually. You know, I'm in spiritual debt. You know, and I'm not coming at you in like a religious way or anything, but I just know in my heart that, you know, that there's, you know, I got a couple of outsiders living in my heart. You know what I'm saying? But I know that that's the right answer. That if you build up that integrity, man, you build up that 100%, that people can smell that on you. Let's thank you for that call. Let's take one more. Here we go.
Yo, what's good, bruh? This is Pennsylvania Pete.
Pennsylvania Pete. I've never called anybody that. Let's hear more.
I'm calling in response to your boy, Trick Lung Mickey.
TLM, baby. And if you want to see the call specifically from Mickey and my thoughts on it, that's on YouTube's out there. Onward.
I'm not in his personal situation, so I can't say how it would be to overcome, you know, the fear of death in such a short time span and then how to talk to women. But I feel like, you know, the best bet for him to do would be to accept it as quick as he can. Start joking about it, right? And then once you start joking about it, you know, I don't know if you'll ever be able to really accept it because I think that's the thing that everyone, you know, has troubles dealing with, you know, the fear of dying. It's so scary. But, yeah, the best thing maybe to just, you know, come to terms with it. And then.
Well, I mean, look, I think Mickey's called up confident as fuck, dude. You know? Pennsylvania Pete. And I will call you that now. I think Mickey called up 100 about his activity, you know? I mean, this guy's out there. I mean, you know, he's being brave. He could just lay on the internet and jerk off, dude. You know, and get exhausted quick and just, you know, rest a little and then jerk off again. But he's not doing that. You know, he's saying he wants more. He wants more than his present lungs can hold. You know what I'm saying? He wants to double down on his own life. That's what he wants to do. He's willing to take that risk. He's asking the universe, I want love. Because I'm going to get on that transplant list. I'm going to get that second. I'm going to get 4 lungs. Fucking Tricky Mickey's going to be a damn amphibian come 2022. That boy's going to be out there fucking backstroking in your lake and banging your sister and stepmom at the same time. So freaking, you know, I mean, Pennsylvania Pete accepted and I mean, like, I feel you. It sounds like he's accepted it, though. It sounds like he's accepted it. You know, maybe you got to accept Big Petey. Maybe you got to accept, maybe you sitting around your room looking, you got 3 or 4 sisters or siblings in the house, female siblings, you know? And you thinking, oh, damn. Maybe you scared that somebody with as much integrity as Sweet Mickey has out there, that when he gets sucrosed up with them new airbags, that he's going to come to your house. And he's going to give you a bunch of nieces and nephews, you know? Because that is a lover boy. So you might be living in fear, Pete. Anyway, I didn't mean to get fired up, though. I do appreciate everybody's call, and I always do. Let's take one more. Let's hit another call here, man. Here we go.
What's up, Theo? This is TJ, and I'm calling in about that Mickey was running on them, fuming on them low tanks of gas.
Yeah, I feel you, TJ. Thanks for calling, dude. You honestly sound like you have less time to be alive than Mickey, bro, to be honest with you, bro. No shame, you know? And look, and Mickey and I texted the other day about joking around, and he was cool, man. He said it was, you know, he laughed, and he'd been having a laugh, and he'd been sharing this experience with his friends. And look, that's where I'm from. So sometimes if somebody's like, man, you joke about shit that's too real, well, guess what? You know, I didn't choose that for myself always. And I do know that it is a problem that I have. Sometimes I do joke when things shouldn't be joked about, you know? But I mean, I grew up, man, my dad was 70 when I was born. You know that. My sister had a liver, was not on the liver list, you know? I mean, she laid in the crib, dude. She was green and yellow and different colors for 5-6 years. You know, had so many scars on her body, looked like a damn, you know, looked like a scarecrow. Looked like the child of a scarecrow. You know, so my first thoughts growing up was that everybody's dying. You know, I'm not trying to glum anybody out, but I'm trying to let you know where some of my sense of humor comes from. You know, so you don't think I'm just out here. That's where my sense of humor got made. That if I wasn't able to find some joy in that, you know, and going up to my dad and not knowing each time if he's alive or just, you know, resting. He'd have friends come over, both of them fall asleep on the couch. And I'm thinking we got a carbon monoxide leak in the house. But the truth is, both of them are just in their late 70s. And they just were having a conversation, and one of them didn't talk for a little bit, and both of them dozed off. But TJ, man, you sound like you might need a spare lung, but let's hear more. Thank you for calling, TJ.
You know, my best advice would be maybe if he could go on one of these dating sites, you know, his online dating sites, and just kind of explain his situation, like, so, you know, whoever knows his situation right off the bat, because the worst thing you can do is get, you know, attached to a girl and get really serious with her, you know, and she wants to spend the rest of her life with you, and then 2 years down the road, you're dead. I hope that doesn't happen, you know what I'm saying? But I think that would be the best thing, to just explain your situation. You're going through a hard time. You want some companionship. And, yeah, man. Anyway, that's my advice. Love you, podcast, bro.
Thank you, TJ, man. And I love you, bud. I'm sorry. I've been a little fired up this episode, you know? But you know, and look, here's the thing. TJ brings up a good point because, look, Mickey, I'll tell you this, brother. We're all on dating apps. Everybody's out there on them. You know, so that's not like, you know, I don't want you to think that, and look, man, I'm not trying to, I mean, I can't imagine what you're having to deal with, Mickey. You know, here you are sharing something that's the realest thing. You know? Somebody turns on the egg timer turns an egg timer on inside of your body. You know, and here you are sharing that with us and letting us talk about that and think about that, you know, and even joke about it. And so I want to say thank you for letting us do that. But the thing is also, I don't want you to think you're missing out on some magical universe where, you know, air capable people, you know, people that are fully air capable are, you know, out here just dating and, you know, and everything's easy peasy. Part of the problem is things have changed now. And so we're all out here on these electronics. We're all kind of becoming alien to each other. You know, speaking of aliens, we're all kind of becoming alien to each other. So, you know, it is tough. It's tough out here for a lot of people. But, you know, I'll say this, man, a lot of women and this might be a weird way to look at it, but women love a project. Women love a man they can rescue. Women love, and women also, this is a dark way to put it, kind of women love fucking death and murder and stuff. Every woman I know has seen every episode of Dateline ever. I mean, I secretly think that women want to get murdered. And I don't mean that in like a Me Too or any of that time's up. I'm not talking about anything like that. But I think that women secretly have this fascination with, getting almost murdered. Let's say that. Because they're all watching it all the time. And so, you know what I'm saying? You have that mysterious element. If I want to be mysterious, I got to fucking put on like a dark bonnet or get a hammer or something. But if you want to be mysterious, Mickey, you just roll up. You know what I'm saying? And your freaking lungs, I mean, roll up with a picture of your lungs. Fucking show her that picture. Like, look, baby girl, these things, a couple of A cups right here I'm running on, a couple of fucking bat wings left in your boy. So why don't you and me, why don't we see at least how deep my heart is? I mean, you can make a pickup line that could be deeper than anything. Like, hey, honey, my lungs don't work, so I'm going to have to smell you with my heart. So I'm going to have to hold your scent in my heart. And that's that third lung, man, that heart. That's that lung that holds, the air that holds our most important air. And you sound like you got a big one of those. But man, you've just had me thinking all week, man. You've had me thinking, and I appreciate it, Mickey. And I look forward to seeing you in Tacoma. And if you guys have somebody you think it would be good to set up for Mickey, email me. And that's just theovonk@mac.com. And they got to live up in Tacoma or Seattle. Don't send me somebody from fucking Indiana. We ain't bussing in some muppet from Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Some chick that's just, just got out the system or something. Or some broad out them halfway houses. We're not doing all of that shit. This ain't a fucking, we ain't trying to, bring somebody's clout up. We ain't trying to greyhound some bitch out from Evansville. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about, let's find him a decent woman who may be interested in a man that is a man. He ain't coming in light in any loafers. He's coming in heavy in the heart. And maybe a little light in the lungs. All right, guys, let's take this call right here. Here we go. This was a separate call that came in.
Hey, Theo, what's going on, man? Love the show. This is Cooper. I'm wondering if you can maybe help me out with a personal problem.
All right, Cooper, thank you for calling. Onward.
Just speaking from your life experience, have you ever been dating a real fiery, spicy Latina, maybe a Caribbean girl, like a real exotic girl? Maybe she's got like a pet parrot at home. I'm just wondering, how do you deal with the bird when it's heckling you during sex?
All right. So I think that's obviously joking around us. Cooper, calling about a bird. So that's irony. Cooper, bird coop. And I'll say this, dude, a spicy Latina or Caribbean woman. Okay. Probably different things, dude. Go down to the Caribbean, bruh. I'd love to see you go down there, sweet coop. Let me tell you what happened to me one time down in the Caribbean or in Jamaica or somewhere. Okay, I go into a Starbucks, dude. They had a sign outside that says Starbucks. I walk in. There's a lady back in there. Looks kind of weird in there. There's a lady. She's like, "Welcome to the Starbucks Lounge. Can I get you a smoothie?" It wasn't even a Starbucks, dude. Somebody'd stolen a Starbucks sign, put it up outside of a fucking smoothie center. I don't know what the fuck it was, dude. And then I ordered it, gave the lady some money. She fucking went out the back. Wrap. Never saw it. Waited 20 minutes. Went out in the street. And there was about a block away, there was literally a knife fight right in front of me. two dudes fighting with knives, which very fun to watch. Watching dudes fight with knives, bro, it is damn. I mean, it's, it's that fucking killer capoeira right there. And it was pretty fun. And then one of them chased the other one down the street. But I like to see you out there doing all of that, Mr. Coop. And also I made love to a girl in Denver years ago, this blonde girl. And she lived at a high altitude. And she had a gray parrotlet. And a lot of parrotlets, I believe, are from South America. And it would actually be on my shoulder once in a while we were making love. But that's not hard to be, because I'm not good at making love. So, easy place for a bird to roost. But anyhow, let's go. Onward. Let's take another call, man, here. What do we got here? All right. Let's get this one last call in. And I want to let you guys know some dates that I'm going to be performing. I will be in Portland, Oregon, and that is this weekend at Harvey's Comedy Club. And you can find that tickets to that on theovon.com/tour, T-O-U-R. As well, next weekend I'll be in La Jolla at the Comedy Store. After that, the 23rd and 24th of February, I'll be in Fantasy Springs Casino. And then the 15th and 16th, I'll be in Tacoma there in Washington. The 17th, I'll be in Spokane, and those are of March 15th through 17th. March 23rd and 20th through 25th, I'll be in Oxnard, California at Levity Live. And then in April, I'll be at Bananas Comedy, and that's in New Jersey somewhere. I'm not sure where. And then also, I got this little announcement. I guess it's an announcement. I'm going to be shooting a movie, a film. It's a small, it's a $1 million budget. And I'm going to be shooting with Thomas Ian Nicholson. Let me see. Thomas Ian Nicholas. Sorry. Thomas Ian Nicholas. And you can check him out, and you'll remember him from a lot of films. He was in that movie where they have the pitcher that breaks his arm, and then he throws the arm in from the outfield, and he throws it really fast, and he gets a job working for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I'm going to be shooting a movie with him called Bitcoin, and yeah, Thomas Ian Nicholas. And I went to his film premiere the other night. It was really, really great. Super nice guy, and I'm looking forward to that. And he is the same age as me, and we'll be shooting that in Albuquerque in May. So that's pretty cool, man. I'm excited about that opportunity to work with him. He was in that movie, and I can't remember the name of that. He's been in so many films, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole him. He was also in American Pie and the American Pie series. But I don't watch a ton of films, and that's what I remember him from. But so, yeah, it should be cool. Should be cool to do that. I'm looking forward to it. Now, with movies in Hollywood, shit don't always come to fruition. But as of right now, it's all contracted out, and we are ready to rock. So looking forward to that. All right, man, let's take one more call here. And this is this call, I already know what it's about. And I just want to get some advice. Let's see what he says. Here we go. Onward.
Hey, Theo. This is James from Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm calling because I've got a little bit of dark arts on my mind.
And I appreciate you calling, James. And I've been in Omaha, dude, and I've honestly masturbated outside of that city a couple times. And I've actually, and I'll do an update real quick. I've been struggling still with the adult masturbation. Touching myself, not others. And it's been, I'd been doing well, and then last night I fell off. I fell off that jerk wagon. But I'm trying to get back on it. I'm not giving up. And I just wanted to update and kind of come clean about that, and be out here where I am, But I appreciate you calling in here, James, with your dark arts issue. Here we go. Onward.
So I'm 21 years old. I have a girlfriend who I've been dating for about 3 years now.
Oh, wow. So that's that young love. And that's beautiful, man. If you're in young love, sometimes it's almost, that's the love that's dangerous. People get murdered at that age in love, Onward.
It's a pretty serious relationship. I just see myself being with her the rest of my life. But
wow. And you know what? Good for you, man. Because that's brave, dude. That's bravery, bro. Onward.
There's this thing on my mind where You see, I lost my virginity to her. I've never been sexually with another woman before.
Okay, so this is your lady. That's your girl, and y'all. That's called a golden. I think it's called a golden Oreo. When you've only had sex with one person, and y'all are gonna and you guys are together. You know, and you guys are gonna. When you're married to somebody, you only have had sex with one person. I'm pretty sure it's called a golden Oreo. Onward.
The same is not it's not the same for her. She did not lose her virginity to me. She hooked up with several guys before she met me.
Okay. So she's a little bit more of a nut or butter, you know? And that's okay, man. That's okay. Onward.
And so basically, you know, I don't know how I feel about potentially spending the rest of my life with this woman and, you know, not ever having sex with anybody else. Part of me thinks I should be okay with this. You know, that perfect 1-0 record is probably something a lot of guys wish they had. But for me, it's just like, man, there's so much out there sexually, so many sexual experiences that I feel like, man, I might be missing out on, you know?
And that's the end of the call. Wow. That's a big issue, a big question, not an issue. Sorry, that's a big question. It's a big call, James, and I appreciate you calling. You know that I was in your position when I was young, man. When I went off to college, I was dating a girl, and I'd lost my virginity to her outside of a bowling alley, actually. You know, and people were throwing rocks at us and all kinds of shit, and it was a different time back then, and it was more of a rural time. You know, there's more gravel. But, you know, and I was jealous, and I couldn't get over the jealousy. And it really had nothing to do with her. That just had to do with me, you know? And here's the thing, yeah, you can get out there and experience more dating, more sexualness. There's that opportunity, man. That is out there. That's out there for you if you want it. But there's something nice if you love someone that is hard to find again. It's hard to find. You know, I believe that. I believe that is hard to find. You can't just always fall in love. You can date somebody and make a relationship, but you can't always fall in love. Like, that's really the tough thing. So I think you have to look at what you have. Is the grass greener out there? I don't know. Now, I hope you're not you're comparing things to pornography. If you're doing that, you got to hold that line, bucko. Because the things that happen in pornography are not happening in regular people's sexual activity. You know, you see pornography and it's, it's all that action. And they got elbows and titties and, people with, freelance buttholes and all kinds of activity. But in real life, dude, it's fucking awkward. And, somebody just had dinner and they had capers and they got a belch and it's fucking, you had a Pepsi and there's dog shit in the corner of the room. And there's, there's a lot of other, there's the reality. But you know what? I think that I honestly do think that this is a question that other guys might have more experience with. If there's guys out there that have only ever, been with their spouse, if there's guys out there that, were in love and had a love and left it and had an experience and do they regret it? I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life when it comes to sex. I have not had a healthy sexual relationship with myself. I haven't carried myself with a ton of integrity. To go back to one of our callers earlier talking about integrity, what Jason was talking about. This one's a tough one for me, man. So I'm going to put this one out to our callers, and I'll chime in on this one next week because that's a real deal. That is a real deal when you're out there. And, I had a girl that I was in love with in high school. And, and I lost my virginity to her. And I lost my virginity behind, a bowling alley standing up. And people were throwing rocks and all kinds of shit at us. Very Gaza Strip, if you will. And But I remember being jealous that this woman had more partners than I had. But it didn't have anything to do with her. That was all on me. So the jealousy, if you have jealousy, it's your thing. Now, how do you handle that and deal with that at your age? Who knows? I don't know. I didn't handle it well. I was angry at her. I resented her. But I had no tools for solving any emotional or relationship problems. I had zero tools. I was flight or fight or fuck. I think maybe might be the third one. Or just fiddle. And I would just kind of fiddle with my fingers and just be, kind of loitering and be awkward and shit. And I also hid outside of a girl's place one time and petted a cat out there in South Carolina, doing some light stalking, and I will apologize for that. But let's put that one out to the callers, man. We'll put that one out to the callers. If you have some suggestions for James, 985-664-9503. That is the hotline. I want to thank everybody that's been a part of the podcast that's been helping. We do have exciting stuff happening for the next year. Things are slowly going on. And I'm just grateful to be here with you guys. I'm going to go watch the end of the Super Bowl. I was going to watch and come back and talk to you guys again, but, I feel like we've had a good episode. There's been a lot of information, I feel like maybe, and kind of coming full circle about aliens, I feel like maybe we're becoming aliens. Maybe we're becoming aliens. And I think that's why part of me wants to tell James just to stay in there and work it out with your lady. That's why part of me wants to say, let's find a couple of options, or let's find a girl, at least a date for my boy Mickey. Because, man, we're letting love go. We're giving up on it easy. We're giving up on it easy. And it's not fair for me to tell you that, James, really, because I haven't done that in my life. But it doesn't mean always that because I haven't, doesn't mean that I can't now. Because it's tough. I know it's tough for a lot of men out there. To stay in love and to commit to love. But damn, maybe that's our battle these days. Because we are becoming aliens and alien to the things that make us human. Connection. And I feel it. I'm not accusing anybody of it. I mean, I am guilty as the rest, man. We out there in these emo streets, man. We out there in these love streets. But we're not alone, bro. Gang, you feel me? All right, man, I'll see you guys in Portland this week. I'll have an episode up. Thursday, I'm going out of town. I'll have an episode up Thursday. We'll follow up and put these calls out to James. And you guys be good to yourselves. You know what I'm saying? You probably deserve it. And if you don't, we'll start asking ourselves, how can I deserve more? And how can I have a little bit more integrity? Because that's something that we can all gain. And thank you guys for the calls. Thank everybody. You guys be good to yourselves, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Celebrate living, celebrate misery. You know that soon we're gonna die. Let's have some fun while we all die. Celebrate dark days, celebrate all your pain. Exercised. Let's have some fun while we all die.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jonathan Kite, and welcome to Kite Club, a podcast where I'll be sharing thoughts on things like current events, stand-up stories, and 7 ways to pleasure your partner. The answer may shock you. Sometimes I'll interview my friends. Sometimes I won't. And as always, I'll be joined by the voices in my head.
You have 3 new voice messages.
A lot of people are talking about Kite Club. I've been talking about Kite Club for so long, longer than anybody else. So great. Hey, sweetheart, here's a deal. Anyone who doesn't listen to Kite Club is a dodgy bloody wanker. Do you know what I mean?
Hi, I'll take a quarter pounder with cheese and a McFlurry.
Sorry, sir, but our ice cream machine is broken.
No!
I think Tom Hanks just butt-dialed me. Anyway, first rule of Kite Club is tell everyone about Kite Club. Second rule of Kite Club is tell everyone about Kite Club. Third rule, like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or watch us on YouTube, yeah? And yes, don't worry, my Brad Pitt impression will get better.